disconnected.
Welcome to the Take Cover Podcast with your hosts, Jacob and Chase. Viewer discretion is advised.
We are live,
Hell
TCP,
yeah.
Wednesdays.
Hey, I wanted to talk to you about... Sorry, go ahead.
Live, 6 p.m. in the studio. Scott Stevens, Jacob Payne.
Absolutely.
We're here having a good time. Got the Knob Creek on deck.
Our fucking blanket.
Hell yeah. So if you guys are cold, come on over. We'll wrap you up in the
thick,
TCP. Yeah, it is thick as hell.
Like the host of this bitch.
But yeah, what were you going to say?
Oh, I found out today that Catholics don't believe in anything except penis and vagina sex. Is that true? Catholic? Chase.
Define Catholic. I guess.
No, for real.
What a show opener.
I knew about the no birth control thing, but I didn't know about that.
I guess.
That's fucking
I
wild.
well, Catholic's a very, very traditional, religion.
Yeah,
Like,
I get
the rules are very, very set in stone, and they have been for a very long time. So
Listen, God don't want me getting head. We got a big problem.
well,
So Catholics only believe in, vaginal and penis sex.
Yeah.
What are these priests doing?
Yeah, no shit. There's
I mean,
a lot of...
I'm not making a joke. I'm just honest.
No. Yeah, there's a lot of hypocrisy for sure. But I was just what was I listening to today? I was listening to something and they were talking about that, and then some dude within the religion, I guess it's well respected or whatever, created the rhythm method, which is just like figuring out the woman's cycle and then not having sex when she can get pregnant from it.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that by definition birth control?
yes, yeah, it's a
So
thin,
it's
a very
a
thin
loophole.
one. Yeah,
And then he also started telling them that you can have sex however you want as long as you end it with semen going into the vagina.
I think
So it was like, huh.
the whole
Okay.
issue is the intentions of having sex.
It's supposed to just be to reproduce.
Correct.
Reproducing
Correct. So there's
Procreate.
loopholes.
Reprocreate.
Yeah. So there's loopholes that you just,
Yeah.
uncovered it. So, the rhythm method, because we don't want to use birth control. You're cherry picking here.
Yeah, it's wild.
And that's one of the issues about religion in general. People get turned off because they cherry pick.
Yeah.
It's like, the homosexuality thing. I don't care who loves who, right? It doesn't affect me, whatever. But why are you going to cherry pick that when you have taken the Lord's name in vain? You've done this, you've done that, premarital sex, whatever.
Yeah.
Because that's something that you don't do,
Right.
and supposedly it's wrong. So you get on board with that.
Yeah.
Like virtue signaling, whatever.
I know a guy that's a Mormon, and apparently he's not supposed to masturbate or anything. He's like, well, I'm not supposed to, so I only jerk off like once a week. I'm like,
just a little sin.
well, then, why not just do it all the time?
Yeah.
And, he won't have sex with his girlfriend until they're married, but you're also not supposed to masturbate ever. So, why not just have sex with your girlfriend once a week? If it's the same difference.
Well, he's a dude, so he's probably doing it twice as much as he's telling
Oh,
you.
absolutely. But I'm just saying, if it's a weird space to, set your boundaries and then go, well, once a week's fine. God will forgive that.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's kind of like, just one hit of meth is good.
Yeah.
No, not.
just enough to wean me over.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, people do cherry pick, man, and we're getting into a place where it's not just in the political sphere. It's people's just ideologies nowadays have become very, very simplistic in the way that they view the world, and it can be very toxic. You see the people that have a one-line answer for everything. They say I see this, or they see a number or statistic, so that automatically means this, and we need to fix it. And there's nothing else to what they believe in. Then there's this, and this needs to be fixed. So they just don't agree with anything else but that idea of that small set of facts morphed into a certain ideology that fits the narrative that they want to push on whoever their friends, their family, or
All about
whatever.
control and power, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's the thing about it is it's so easy nowadays because a lot of people unfortunately get information from places they probably shouldn't get information from, like memes, Facebook, Reddit. You know, instead of going to areas and institutions where there's like verified knowledge that's been, you know, corroborated and peer checked and looked through and everything like that, they're just like, oh, this meme on Facebook said this, and like it's got the 100 emoji by it and the clapping thing, so you know it's real. And now I'm gonna go fucking hold up a sign outside of somebody's house because of that. So
Yeah.
it sucks, but like that's just the mob, man. Most people really aren't like that, but there's so many people that like fall into that, and then give them a little time, and then they're like, oh, I was kind of stupid. I just didn't know.
But it all has to be documented.
Yeah.
Because with no documentation, you hadn't done shit, right? So to do all this stuff, if you're not getting clout on Facebook or YouTube, you ain't gonna do it.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
And
true.
Another form of cherry picking that we're seeing is the screenshotting and the what's the photoshopping and you know the edits and the videos and stuff just to see what they want you to see.
Yeah.
You don't see the whole story. You know, oh look what this piece of shit did.
Yeah.
Okay, what did he do? I see that after the fact.
Yeah.
You know, what led up to that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got to be careful about casting judgment very quickly. When you just
100%.
see like a sliver, you just see a sliver, and then you automatically assume this much. You fill in the rest with what your ideology subscribes
And
to.
that's one of my biggest beefs with this whole George Floyd thing, not to get on that soapbox, but people wanted to say, well, his criminal history, whatever. Okay, it doesn't matter, all right? That video that we saw told the whole story of that piece of shit cop because he was on his stomach, handcuffed behind his back. He was not a threat, okay? Now, I don't care if you know jujitsu or not. He's not going to hurt you.
Especially with 4 guys.
Yeah. Caveat to that, if anybody doesn't know, Scott, you're a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu,
Yeah.
so you know a little bit about it. I'm sure you were as uncomfortable as
literally
anybody
never
else
touched
watching.
the mat.
Like I'm sure you were as uncomfortable as everybody else seeing that because you're just the kind of damage that can be done with the human body to somebody who's untrained. You've seen guys come into the gym who may be strong as hell, but they don't know what in the world they're doing. They're throwing their weight around. They're hurting guys. They're hurting themselves. And like I'm sure, you know, you can attest to the fact that was just gross. So you're right. It definitely. Nothing else mattered except the end result there and everything that happened in that moment. It's like nothing else before that really mattered.
And people don't realize this. Say me and you got a physical altercation, and you took me down and you mounted me. Okay? At that point, the fight is over by law because I'm defenseless. If you're on top of me and you can pound my face in, I'm defenseless. Okay? So you can be arrested for assault. Now, depending on circumstances, I don't know if there'd be any cops that would arrest you for that. You know what I'm saying? But that's
Well, in states that aren't mutual combat, you get arrested anyway.
you're right. But my thing is, what I appreciate are I've seen an influx in the gym with law enforcement coming in because they said, especially with the altercation in Atlanta, because that could have been prevented if they had some training. You know what I'm saying? Because they had 2-3 people there.
It was at least two officers that were within grabbing reach.
So they should have been able to detain him, right? He said that scared the shit out of me. This one particular cop, that scared the shit out of me. It's like we can't do our job anymore, you know. So I have to do something to learn something to protect myself and to protect other people that I'm trying to arrest, because that's all what it's about. We want to go home at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I'm a social worker, okay. I want to go help people, then I want to go home to my family, right? Cops don't want to pull a trigger. They want to go to work, everything be good. If there's no crime, there's no calls, everything's good, right? That's what we assume.
Yeah.
Nobody
I think it's a bit of a generalization,
right.
though.
Who wants their face on the news? Not me.
Yeah.
You know, unless I did something good, you know, or I saved a kid or saved somebody's life, whatever. But nobody wants that negative attention. So you don't go out. They said that cop that killed George Floyd had beef with him anyways.
Yeah, they
Yeah, they
knew
worked
each
at a
other.
club
They knew each
together.
other beforehand. They had apparently had some sort of interactions before where one of them was a bodyguard at the club, and then one of them was like basically how cops hang outside of bars all the time. Anyways, he was just one of those officers that was assigned to that sort of duty, at least from what I've read. So I could understand where it becomes more personal at that level. He's seen this guy before. He's like, I know this dude, blah, 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 whatever. But Yeah, I think that was the whole deal. Was like they ended up actually.
If you're calling into the show, don't call from a private number. I'm not going to answer that.
Fair enough. Yeah, we've had that trouble before.
Yeah.
In the past. But yeah, I definitely, I was definitely really grossed out by that. But
You
yeah,
talked
go ahead,
about
sorry.
not judging somebody. At that time, I looked at his picture and I'm like, okay, that piece of shit just killed somebody. I'm gonna judge him by the way he looks right now. You look at him, he looks about 100 pounds soaking wet. You know, skinny ass white dude, had this little smirk on his face. He looked like to me he was bullied all through high school and took a police job and a security job just so he had power over somebody. How do we vet that?
How do you?
I think anybody
know.
who's worked at Walmart cannot get a job as a cop. That's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Bro, I'm telling you right now, the fucking Walmart employees are so hardcore about everything. You give those motherfuckers one iota of power over the customers and they're like, bet.
Well, environment breeds different results, right?
Yeah, again, don't call into a private number. I'm not going to answer that.
So environment breeds different results. And we've all heard about the working environment of Walmart.
Yeah,
I'm sure everybody's pissed off wanting to take it out on somebody else.
Yep.
yeah, that's true.
It's one of those things you come in like, I wish a motherfucker would do this today.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like they have those. I feel like there's got to be a meeting in the morning like, all right, guys, masks are now mandatory. Do not let anyone in the store without a mask. And then they all go out there going, man, I really fucking hope somebody tries to come in here without a mask on because I'm going to stop them just because I'm bored. And then, like, you see all those videos going viral now of all the Walmart employees fucking, you know, the old man that tries to push one out of the way and falls to the ground and shit. And it's like, dude, like, you're a Walmart employee. Like, just stand there and tell him to put a mask on. If he doesn't put a mask on, just
Call the police.
call the police,
Hell, let
dude.
the man alone.
Yeah, just leave him alone.
All
Like,
they're gonna do is walk in there without a mask on.
Answer it.
yeah.
Might as well.
Hey, stop.
It's probably somebody that's like, I really love the show, but well.
Now they're like,
You're about to ruin it for everybody. I'm just gonna turn my phone off. You keep
Jacob is an
fucking
asshole.
calling me. Speaking of which, I got this shirt.
Oh
in.
yeah.
So this is no longer available because I deleted this one. But the new one is way better. So how it's got the Fireball mic logo there. The new one has that, except it's over here, and then it says TCP coming off of it.
Yeah.
And then on the back, the logo is moved up way further. Because I don't know if it's just the way they printed this shirt, because I had one for my Owensboro Off-Road group and one for TCP, and I ordered both of them. And I put the logos in the exact same spot on the creator little design thing. And the one for Owensboro Off-Road was perfect. It was like in the best spot possible. And then this one is like in my lower back. So
Yeah.
I don't know, but I just went ahead and deleted this one and then made a new one, mainly to move the design up, but then also Chase had the input of using the different logo for right here, and it turned out really well.
Yeah, they look good. I just posted the link to that in the description if you guys want to check that out.
Yep, I got a sample of that ordered as well, so it should be in shortly.
Yeah, but this is some good whiskey. I actually really like this. Sorry.
Are you sweating?
Huh? Yeah.
Chase is already drunk.
He popped a Molly, bro.
No, I was putting this damn thing up. I'm short as hell, man. That was taking
I
every.
can't believe you reached up that high.
A lot of standing on objects. I got good at that, being short my whole life.
Yeah.
Realizing that I can't reach all the way up there without some assistance. But I got
It'd been hilarious. We walked in here and he was doing the John Claude Van Damme splits, like Bloodsport.
Yeah, but-
Like, ah, shit.
Yeah, if I was doing that but stuck, like, please help me. That's what I thought was going to happen because I was using these
Okay,
damn rollers.
now it's not from a private number. Hello?
I think I recognize that voice from here.
Did you hear it? I think it was Judah.
Put it on speaker. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, he's a notorious call-in user.
Whatever happened to old Rusty Shackelford?
I don't know, man. He's around. He hasn't called in.
He's
lately.
around.
He hasn't called in lately, but I'm sure he's still
He
around.
stays in the shadows
He's
with a pocket full of sand.
pocket full of sand. Can't trust people, man. But yeah, I don't know, man. Things have been weird nonstop in 2020, and like
I'm just ready to quit living in this fucking movie, bro.
it's more than a movie. It's just like a nightmare at this point, where like everybody's at each other's throats. And like the worst thing about all of this, the absolute worst part about all of this is November is coming up.
Oh, yeah.
And you remember the last November, 2016, how people just went ballistic on each other at every opportunity. And people are already at each other's throats. And I'm just like, are you good?
Mask on.
So I have allergies. We're about allergies,
Yeah.
and I mowed the yard yesterday, and it's like every time I mow the yard, I can't go out in public because, like, I have every single symptom of corona.
Dude, Brooklyn's dad, whenever he overeats, he coughs. Like, can't help it. So it's not even really when he overeats; it's just when he gets full. And so, like, we'll be out to eat, and we'll get done with our food. All right, I'm gonna have to turn my phone off. We'll get done with our food, and then he'll be like, "I gotta go outside," and then like he'll go outside to not freak everybody out.
Yeah,
and
it's sad, man.
It's goofy, dude. It's goofy. I try to like not be political and like sharing all this shit on Facebook and stuff, but I almost shared one like 2 days ago when it said that Sunday had a new record high for Kentucky coronavirus, and I wanted to share it and just be like, "What? How is that possible? We all have to wear masks. We've had to wear masks for 2 weeks now. How's there a new? It's almost like the masks don't do anything, like we knew previously. How weird."
And we have people that don't vet information, like you were talking about with the memes. I saw an article came out that now there are more COVID deaths than there were deaths in Vietnam. You got to be kidding me. Anybody who reads that doesn't vet information is going to take that like, oh my God, this is awful. It's more than a war. What about suicide? What about car accidents? What about obesity, heart disease, cancer, whatever? Nobody talks about the cancer, but nobody talks about that.
And man, what I've been seeing, and tell me if all right, my phone's going off.
Y'all done ruined it.
Had to ruin it for everybody. Same fucking number.
We know who it is.
Yeah. All right, phone off. Tell me if y'all feel the same or see the same thing at least. But I've noticed that since this mandatory mask thing has been like enforced, and the number has gone up to a new record high, 1,000 cases in a single day. I feel like a lot of that is because now there's a false sense of security. Nobody's social distancing anymore. Like when I'm in Walmart and we all have masks on, everybody's like right fucking next to me now.
Yeah.
Whereas when nobody had masks on, nobody came near each other.
Yeah.
And so now you've got this mask on and you're like, oh, the governor said I'm safe, and you're not. Like in the governor's defense, he specifically says mask on and still social distance. But people aren't good with multi-dimensional things.
Right.
They see one thing and that's the lane they take. So if you say social distance, that's what they're going to do. If you say mask on, that's what they're going to do. But it's going to be hard to conflate the two.
Right.
And so now I feel like just from my personal experience in public, everyone's wearing masks because now you have to, but now everyone's right next to each other. So with a mask not actually doing anything other than just stopping your spit particles from flying through the air, it doesn't actually stop the transmission of coronavirus.
Yeah.
So I feel like everyone's next to each other, the masks aren't doing anything, so that's why the cases have gone up.
Go ahead.
The big thing is masks do one thing. Like you said, they stop the transmission of airborne things to a degree. But it doesn't make a difference if we're all walking into the same gas station, grabbing the same handle, touching the same keypad, because we can't use cash right now.
Using the same gas pumps.
Using the same gas pumps. And, people say, well, that's what the gloves are for. And if you want to be extra safe, wear the damn gloves.
And no. Here's the thing, though. You have to change gloves with each thing you touch.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Okay, I seen an old man walking through Walmart, had a mask on and gloves on. His phone rings. He grabs his phone, takes an ear off his mask, and presses it to his face. Like, why the fuck are you wearing any of that then?
You're making it worse.
People are stupid. It's all for show. And I feel like it's also to create division. Because there's a lot of conspiracy theories that have been out about this.
A bunch.
About,
I subscribe to them all.
facial recognition, which I feel like that's true. Now they're talking about being able to do facial recognition with half your face. But talk about being political and stuff. This is drawing a line in the sand. And the Democrats and Republicans have used this for their advantage, okay? Like the racism stuff, okay? Now Democrats are pushing the black vote. Joe Biden bless his heart, said that if you don't vote for me, you're not black or something.
Yeah, some crazy.
You know,
like
then
that.
they all, Nancy Pelosi and all those people did knelt down to the,
They
and wore that garb and stuff.
Traditional African garb, yeah.
Then, or before all this, she stood up at the State of Union address and ripped up the actual address. Right? It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not political by any means, but I'm watching this, and it's making me mad because I know that other people are stupid. Okay? I know that other people are stupid and will go with whatever she does because she's a representative of the Democratic Party. Trump's an asshole, apparently. He's Republican. So let's just do whatever she does and just be an asshole to everybody.
Yep.
Right? So that creates division, and we ain't going to get shit done.
Nope.
Yeah, that was my biggest fear going into this because we all understood at the very beginning this is a world health crisis, a world health crisis. And my fear at the very beginning was anytime there is any sort of large crisis, it runs the risk of becoming extremely political. And when that happens, you have one side will try to push their narrative with the guise of saying, hey, we are helping you through this crisis, but they're also pushing their narrative with it. Right. And the other side does the same thing as well. And that was my fear, is this is going to go from being a health crisis to a political crisis, because we've been in so much lately. There was the impeachment hearings, there was the Trump collusion with Russia hearings, there was literally everything under the sun was just like, everybody needs to pay attention to this. This is the moment where, you know, the corruption comes tumbling down, drain the swamp, the pedophile trafficking rings, that, and it was just like all this stuff going on. And then
Wayfair.
Yeah, and then we'll get to that. But, you know, then we get to this point where, you know, there is high-ranking health officials that are saying, get fucking ready, because this is something serious that is, I know it looks like a cough and most people are going to be okay, but it has the ramifications to cripple an entire health system like it did in Italy, right? Obviously, it's a very unique scenario, you know, Italy is, but at the same time, nobody wanted what happened there to happen anywhere else. Right. So we all gear up, you know, the politicians say, okay, you know, my experts have told me this, so this is what we're going to do. And this side says, my experts have told me this is what we're going to do. And the problem was, yeah, the experts were saying this, but then some experts were saying this, some were saying that, and then people are so confused. They're like, we just want to be safe, and we don't know who to listen to. And the past 50 years, we haven't known who to listen to because he lies to me, you lie to me. And then the moment I give one person my trust, they turn around and take shit right away from me that I can't get back.
Then you got these high-ranking officials talking shit about this health official, and that where that comes in the division.
Hear me out.
Right.
Government's too big. We should give states more power. Government, literally, like the White House should control federal taxes, war, and that's just about fucking it. Like everything else should be states. And,
well, this is all state mandated.
No, yes, but also there is a much higher degree of
federal government interaction when it comes to,
I'm talking
if you don't listen to the federal government, they can take shit away from the states like that.
Right, which is why the states are enforcing it. But also, there's a much higher degree of accountability. Fuck, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
God damn it, whiskey's good. There's a much higher degree of accountability, which you can plainly see with our governor enforcing all this unconstitutional shit, how he's getting restraining orders pressed against him and all this shit. It's really hard for me to sit back and say, oh, Trump's bad man in states, you know, so far away. I've never even seen the person in real life, blah, blah, blah. It's much easier to say, okay, whether or not I agree with the governor of my state, I can go to Tennessee and things are completely different. They have a completely different, you know, state tax code. They have a completely different law structure, all that shit. I feel like that is what the country was founded to be. And now, over the course of the past few hundred years, we've just been shoveling it off all onto the federal government as states are like, wait, this is too much for us to handle. We're just going to give it to y'all. Y'all can be the bad guys. And we're just going to sit back and go, oh, sorry, can't do nothing about it. It's just how it is. And to me, that's not a good enough answer. Like, I get that shit at work all the time, too. Like, oh, I can't do nothing about it. I'm like, it's up there. Okay, well, I can't talk to up there. I can talk to you.
Yeah.
So,
Chain of command.
yeah.
This is one of the big things about this whole crisis that I had kind of brought up in the beginning when everything was going down. I was like, man, we can't look up for help. We got to look to our left and right. We got to look to people in our community. We got to look to, the people that we know, the people that are on the front lines, the people that are fighting this, the people that, are trying to help people. When you start expecting more from people in power is when they start to take advantage of you. And that, if you don't have to believe me when I say that, but you probably have never read a book if you don't believe that. So I just hate that, even to this day, people still do that. They still see a problem and they say, that guy all the way up there should fix it. Instead of, I do my part, the guy next to me, I encourage him to do his part. The guy to the other side of me, I encourage him to do his part. If we all do our part, what we want to get done will absolutely get done. Because the way this country is set up, the way that it is so that change comes from the bottom and not necessarily from the top. But we've gotten so used to the idea that we can just yell at somebody above us, above the chain of command, to change something or make something better for us, that we've gotten in this narrative that we can just push politicians to do everything for us. But when it comes down to it, when real change happens, it's generally private industry and people like people on the ground making the change happen. You can't, like you said with the mask things, man, I saw some stupid shit in Louisville this weekend. People wearing so somebody comes into this restaurant, they don't have a mask on. The lady at the door says, hey, you have to have a mask on to come in here. Okay, here's my mask. They sat him. That's
it's the same thing.
Yeah, that's the whole thing is it's you guys understand that no matter what you do to try and make people do things, they won't do it.
Yeah. I seen something more idiotic than that. Me and Brooklyn were at Denny's, right? At Denny's.
No way.
By the way, fuck the manager, Denny's. But on a side note, we were at Denny's.
Fuck Denny's.
Yeah, and we were sitting at the table closest to the door where you come in, right? This older guy, probably late 50s, comes in, not wearing a mask, and guy's like, "You got to have a mask on," and he goes, "Okay," pulls his shirt up over his face, because it's literally you only have to wear a mask while you're up from the table. So there's no one in there besides me and Brooklyn, who's sitting at the table closest to the door, right? And she's like, sorry, that's not going to work. By the way, I did the same thing. I just pulled my shirt over my nose.
I was going to do it
down
too.
2 feet away.
Yeah.
But she's like, sorry, we can't do that. I guess because they got pissed off at me for doing it. Anyway, he goes, okay. So he turns around, walks all the way back across the parking lot to his truck, gets a mask, comes all the way back in, gets sat 2 feet away from the fucking front desk at a little table there, and immediately just takes the mask back off. That was nothing but a power play.
Yeah.
That was, you're going to do what I tell you to do, or you're not going to get served here. And I'm at the point where, frankly, I would just rather not fucking get served there. I'll just stay home then. You guys were begging for your fucking jobs back. You were begging to be able to go back to work to pay your bills. And now this is how you're going to fucking act?
Yeah.
What is the difference between pulling the shirt over your nose and wearing a fucking cloth mask?
Made out of probably a sock.
There is literally zero difference. And by the way, neither help.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
God damn, it fucking kills me, dude.
You're talking about people kind of pushing stuff on other people. It's like all these posts about like Wayfair, all the sex and pedophilia rings. Okay, people are posting stuff about this, right, to get it out, right? But what are they going to do to help the situation?
Zero.
Nothing.
Other than share it.
So we know people personally, I'm not going to out them there, that their job is to go out of the country to get child sex offenders, right, and bring them back. Me, I'm a social worker. I'm in it. You know what I mean? I've had my run-in with pedophiles and people who have victims of sexual assault. I've known this has been going on for a long time. Why are sexual predators protected? I don't understand.
Is it just because it's one of those things that's so hard to prove, to prosecute?
I've seen where we've had a case that was a slam dunk, and the guy walked because maybe this girl told her story so many times there was maybe one inconsistency, and they was like, nope, can't do it. And
there should be a suspected sex offender registry, the same as
Right.
there's a sex offender registry, so
Right.
that all the guys that get to walk are still on some kind of list.
And a lot of people, they don't want to. They don't want to go press charges because they don't want
Yeah.
to be seen that it's a shameful type thing.
Yeah.
So if there's no victim, there's no crime, right? Then you have, and what perpetuates this, and I saw it today on Instagram. I've been following Tom DeBlass's post about the pedophilia stuff, and
He's been going off
Tom
about it.
DeBlass actually has worked in the school system. He's a gym owner and stuff like that, so he's in it too. You know what I mean? He's the type of guy that if he's going to post about something, he's active in that community.
And also, he has a big enough platform where anything
Correct.
he shares actually would make a difference.
100%. And there's people on there. There was a guy in particular that was saying it was one situation in particular where this 13-year-old girl was dating one of the people in Rolling Stones. I forgot maybe in the lead guitarist. I don't know.
Yeah.
You can look it up on Instagram and see.
Yeah, it
But
was
people
like-
were saying, well, this girl, she's not innocent. First of all, 13 years old. You know how fucking stupid I was at 13?
Very fucking stupid.
There's a reason.
By the way, talk to any 13-year-old. You'll figure it out real quick.
There's a reason why there's laws. 18, I really don't think that you're an adult when you're 18. Because we all know how the frontal lobe forms, right?
I'm an adult now.
I mean, I
Right.
felt like an adult at 15, but
Exactly.
looking back, you're like, wow, you're fucking
That's why we
retarded at
can't
18.
leave. If we can't leave a child at home by themselves for an extended period of time and think they're going to be okay, how are we going to expect them to make the right decisions about who to have sex with?
Yeah.
You know, it's never the child's fault. And if people are perpetuating this, that, oh, it's not his fault, it's the child's fault because she seduced him. No, absolutely
There's no
not.
such thing as seducing a grown man.
Absolutely not.
They know
You
the
know?
rule. They know the law. There's not one fucking pedophile out there that was just like, I didn't know.
Exactly.
There's not one of them. Not one of them was like, I didn't know. And if they did, they'd get caught really quick, right? You know?
Right.
But that.
Now, but here's
Right,
the
go
thing.
ahead.
Tracy Lords. Tracy Lords, do y'all know who Tracy Lords is?
I don't.
An old porn star, okay? The reason why she's so famous is she snuck her way into porn at 15.
15? Yeah,
15
okay, I
years
do know
old,
who she is, yeah.
Okay? And nobody knew.
I heard about it the other day,
Now
like
all
2
her
weeks
stuff
ago.
are being taken off the market because it's child porn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's like,
She was
man,
actually 15 when she was getting fucked by all these dudes.
right, what happened there?
And it was actually known, if I'm not mistaken,
I don't-
in the porn industry, it was known that she was underage.
Then the burden lies on them then.
Yeah.
You know, so nobody know. Maybe she had a fake ID. I don't know, but that's a rare case.
Yeah.
Very.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's a very rare
and
case.
also, that's probably not a girl who is very mentally stable and comes from a steady
Right.
background of consistent parents
Yeah.
and almost certainly abused.
Right.
I mean, there's not many 15-year-olds that like, yeah, I want to go into porn.
Yeah, it's weird. So that's just a different situation. That's kind of like comparing apples to oranges. Athlete A. Y'all seen this documentary on Netflix?
No, I saw
Don't fucking
it,
watch it. All right, it's about the.
I try not to watch things that make me feel really mad at the end.
Correct. So I didn't know what it was all
Gabriel
about.
Hernandez shit. I didn't watch that either.
Well, I watched it for.
Aaron Hernandez?
No, the
Gabriel.
Gabriel Hernandez.
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
About the little boy parents
Oh,
like tortured and killed him.
Yeah.
We can talk about that in a
Yeah.
second.
Okay, yeah, go ahead,
Because
go ahead,
you know I have insight, but it's about the culture of sexual assault in the Olympic gymnasts, USA Olympics. Okay, years of cover-ups, years, and these parents are reporting it to the head guy of the U.S. Olympic team, and he said, "Oh, well, we got it. I will take care of it." No, if my daughter comes to me and tells me that her head trainer stuck his fingers in her vagina, I'm not going to go
not
to
making
the
a phone
head guy.
call.
I'm gonna call the guy after I did what I had to do as a dad. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? As a human being, you know. And years, like decades of this shit. Larry Nassar was covered up.
Yeah, Larry Nassar. That was the guy, yeah.
But what was really cool about that documentary hit me weird. Talk about no victims, no crime, right? This girl made a testimony. And at the very end of the testimony, she looked him right straight in the eye and just gave him this death stare. Like, you're a bad bitch. Because that takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
To look a man straight in the eye who has almost destroyed your life and tell him, go fuck off, you ain't got power over me anymore, you are a savage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and that's probably one of the positive things I took out of that documentary. That and the revealing that culture, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like Simone Biles was involved in this.
Fuck.
So it's been like recent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's very recent, yeah.
And it's that fucking culture, and I don't understand. Does money money's the root of all evil, right?
Yeah.
Is it just money? How do we separate fucking evil from money? You can't. It goes hand in hand, right?
Yeah. Money is power in a lot of ways, and power can very easily turn to straight evil.
So the Gabriel Fernandez shit, okay? People have asked me what my take is on it because of, me being my profession. I don't know.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
Studio's falling apart. Don't worry about it.
Are you sure that's what that was?
That wall cannot support any more weight.
I don't know, man. That
I'm
might
just
have been
saying.
that might have been the motherfucking CIA trying to shut us down.
But people would ask me, why did the social workers do what they did? I don't know. I have no idea.
So recap the situation for anyone who's listening.
So
that doesn't
Gabriel
know.
Fernandez, it was a case in L.A. where it resulted in child abuse so bad that it resulted in his death. Okay, and there was multiple reports of child abuse, and this kid had a caseworker, multiple visits to the home, but the kid ended up dying for some reason. And it turns out that there was a lot of cover up, a lot of corruption, a lot of don't worry about it, don't go over there, a lot of hush hush, because there are in the community there are what we call I don't know the exact term for it, brain fart, but you have to mandatory reporters, okay, like the hospital, all right. If a woman gives birth and she tests positive and the baby tests positive for whatever, they make they're mandated to report that, right? Mm-hmm. So school officials as well, they're mandated to report stuff. That's whenever we go back to school, we get an uptick of referrals because, there's more eyes on these children, which is great because they come to school, they're dirty, they tell stories, they confide in people, which is great, which is I like the school's a safe space for some children, but it's also sad in the same place, instance. It's like whenever these schools shut down, some of these kids, that's their only meal they're getting, right? So you have a lot of that stuff, but these people were getting hushed. Don't worry about it. I know there might have been one lady that got disciplined for trying to call CPS. And it's the overworked, underpaid workers, right? Mm-hmm. They maybe, I don't know how many people they have over there, but they maybe carry like 50 cases. And there's hundreds of people who work in LA County, right? But how are you supposed to see all your people? How are you supposed to keep up with every single person? You know what I mean? Especially a county that big, and you have to see all those families every single month. Something's going to drop off.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's just weird.
I want to ask you something. You jogged my memory a little bit. We were talking, it might have been last week or the week before, about how there was a big movement around like defund the police and all that good stuff, and it brought to light. We were sitting there thinking, I'm like, what things should the police really be doing? What should they not be doing? And what needs more funding as far as at the social level to make sure that certain things don't devolve into people getting shot, especially by like law enforcement officers trying to defend their lives or anything like that. Right. I wonder, especially in a situation like that, like you said, there's people that are just, you have so many cases that it's just like, around about like who's super high risk, and then you're like, those people, they'll be fine. I'm not too worried about it. But really, you just weren't able to catch the red flags because you're spread so thin.
Correct.
So like, at that point, like from your experience, like working in a field where you're dealing with people that may not necessarily always be doing the right thing or in tough situations, socially speaking, do you feel that more investment into a sector that handles things before they escalate? I'm trying to think of a way to word this because it's a very tough subject because there's so many different things that can happen that, like, especially for this whole movement, like, think about all the things that police officers are responsible for and they get called for, like what, like in your opinion, as far as your profession is concerned, like what could use a little bit more of a buffer as far as, or a bolster as far as like helping making sure that the social structure of our community stay together without involving, a high militarized police force? So that like small, because we were talking about small scenarios that could be handled by, we don't need a guy with a gun out here.
Right.
We just need somebody that knows the law and that knows how to handle two people and to talk us down from being mad at each other without it escalating or anything like that. without the need of somebody that like gets out there and has a conflict of interest. Like, okay, this was the call. This is what I heard that's happening out here. Somebody's got to go to jail.
Right.
Instead, like, as far, like I said, I don't know the details of everything that you do, but what are some things that you see as far as you're concerned that like may be helpful rather than just defund the police or anything broad like that?
Relationship. Because I make this joke with one of the law enforcement guys in the gym all the time, and I'm like, I always say, you're the type of cop that makes cops look bad, you're whatever, just a big joke, and he calls us kidnappers, right? But realistically, if you ask the community what social workers do, oh, they take away kids. They do this, they do that, right? We destroy lives, okay? Same with police officers. They have this, it's like this, people paint this picture and they're judging everybody by their profession, and that has created anxiety in our job field, right? Because we don't know if we're safe going from place to place. Same with cops. They don't know if they're coming home alive, at the end of the day. But what has gotten me further and working with my clients is actually treating them like humans, okay? You don't know how many times that I've been told, I like you, you're not like other social workers, okay? There's one case in particular, obviously I can't give details, but the police had to get involved because this guy was high risk, maybe violent, whatever, and they called me, they found him, and so I went to talk to him, and it was really weird how it was set up. The detectives were over here, and the police were over here, and he was kind of standing in the middle. And I walked right up to him. I said, buddy, this is exactly what I said to him. I said, buddy, I don't care about any of this other shit. I said, you need help, I'm here to help you. I said, what you've done, no man in their right mind should be able to do. I said, I go through some stuff too. If you got any questions, just let me know. I said, but I want to get you help. He starts crying because nobody ever looks at the behavior. Nobody ever looks at the root. They just look at the behavior, right? And to fix the behavior, you have to fix what is causing the behavior, okay? It turns out he has some mental health issues. He's anxious, and he's going through some stuff at home, and, his girlfriend, and this, and this. And so, okay, cool. Let's address all this stuff. Let's alleviate all this stuff so you can be a more productive citizen of society, right? Why can't everybody do that? You know what I'm saying? And it all goes back to what kind of people we hire in these fields, right? I'm damaged. I have anxiety. I have depression. I've had suicidal thoughts. This is the last year. You know what I mean? And there's a quote, the damaged are the most evolved, because we want to help people in the helping field, healthcare field, whatever. We're in it for a reason, right? Maybe some people like control and power, but other people want to help. And that's all I want to do is help. And whenever I sit down and talk to my clients and they actually get to trust me, I divulge a little personal information, but that's because I need them to trust me, right? And, but that's just me. I take a therapeutic approach. But I understand the type of demographic we're dealing with, and we have to be on guard. But not everybody's a criminal you come across. Yeah. If you're involved in social services, you're at probably one of the lowest points of your life, and you have to meet that individual there. You have to get down on their level, because if you come in guns blazing, telling them they're going to do this, they're going to do that, you need to listen to me, they're not going to do that.
No. Nobody likes being told what to do.
I tell you what, how many people that have thanked me after I closed their case and wanted to be friends with me and asked me if they can keep their number, to reach out to me to talk to if they need anything. As a human being, I can't say no. You know what I mean? If I'm part of this person's support system and I've helped them in their life, that's what I want to do. I've succeeded. I've accomplished my goal. So why does the support end there? Excuse me. But why does the support end there?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
When my granddad was one of the founding fathers of the FOP. And back in the day, they were respected. Okay? You can call up a policeman, hey, I need help. Can you take me home? Yes, 100%. I've heard stories back in the day that somebody gets pulled over for DUI and they don't get arrested. They get put in the paddy wagon, dropped off the front doorstep, and they get their car home. Right?
Yeah, my dad told me stories about that.
Now, I've also heard stories that they'd rather get taken to jail than going home. My
dad just go ahead and take me to the drunk tank.
Yeah. But that's the relationship we need to get back. And I don't necessarily know how to do that. Because if we get the relationship, if we trust these individuals, then, you know, they can do more for us. We can do more for them, right? The other day, I had to file a missing persons report, and it's just really weird. I talked to somebody. It's like me being a social worker and me doing my job in my structure. I still had to talk to 3 cops, and they were still giving me a weird vibe. You see what I'm saying? It's not their fault.
Yeah.
It's the culture that this environment has created, and that's been passed down. You know, shit rolls downhill, right? And it would just hit me weird because I was relaxed. I was cutting up, trying to have fun, trying to make them comfortable, but they really weren't receptive. You know, and I feel bad for them because if you're on alert all the time, 100%, you're going to be fucking exhausted when you go back home. And what does that do to your brain? It creates PTSD. Stress will cause that reaction. I hate even saying that because we attribute PTSD to veterans, right? Which rightfully so.
High stress environment.
Right. So I know this is long-winded.
Yeah.
But if we start to understand what they go through, and we start to understand what the people committing these crimes are going through, that can mesh extremely well. You know what I'm saying? If we get a cop that comes up and he's a dick to us, like, man, you know, maybe he's had a bad day. And so instead of bucking back against him, just relax. Would you rather be right or be at peace? You know what I mean? But also, these police officers need to learn what kind of demographic they're dealing with, right? You know T.I., the rapper T.I., you know, Charlemagne for the Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
T.I. has a really good podcast, and he had Charlemagne on there. They were talking about the anxiety and PTSD in the black community, okay? And I posted this on my Instagram because it's insightful, very insightful. Because to have empathy, you have to understand what the other person's feeling, right?
Yeah.
And they were talking about being down the streets, hanging out with their friends, and their friends getting shot in the face right beside them.
Yeah.
And T.I. was like, man, after I carried my dead daughter, he said, nothing affects me anymore. He said, I've seen my friends get shot in the face, and it doesn't affect me anymore. And he goes, that's not normal. You know, you see all this stuff, and the same stuff they're seeing, you see at war. You know what I mean? People getting shot right by you. You dodging bullets and stuff like that. So think about this kid getting pulled over, and his whole life, he's getting told, you get pulled over, you may die. You may get shot and killed because that's what that culture perpetuates, the environment, right? So he gets pulled over. He has an anxiety attack. He's starting to freak out. The cop's starting to freak out because of all this stuff, and it causes chaos, right? And recipe for disaster. We just, I don't know. We need to figure out how to be a team and not against each other.
That's like the point I was making on the last show, or maybe the show before that, when Chase was talking about how we need more social workers, not necessarily like what you do, but just social workers in general, as far as the police should only be called out to like armed situations. And I feel the same. I've been thinking about it a little more, and I feel the same way for traffic stops too. Like cops are like, well, we got to have guns for traffic stops because we could get shot at. But like, think about if you were pulled over by a security officer. You're not going to shoot the security guy because he can't take you to jail. That's the reason people shoot. It's because they don't want to go to jail. They don't want the consequences. Yeah. So like, if I get, you know, if I see, you know, purple lights behind me, and I know it's just a traffic enforcement guy. He doesn't have a gun. I'm not going to jail. He just busted me going 10 over the speed limit. I'm about to get a $150 ticket. Here we go. I'm not gonna shoot that guy because he's not gonna take me to jail for anything.
That's a really good fucking point. I did not think about that at all when you were making that point.
And a lot of situations, you know, like cops, when they get to a scene, they disarm the citizen because it escalates. They're like, well, you know, we don't know what you're going to do with it. Well, I don't know what you're going to do with yours either, man. Right. So, like, in this situation, why are you even bringing a gun to this situation? Right. Why can't you just leave that in your car? You have an AR locked up in there. Why can't you just leave your pistol locked up in there?
Well, if you ask any law, I don't mean to cut you off, you don't know who you're pulling over. Right, so you can't. I don't know if that could be feasible.
That was my argument. Sorry to cut you off.
I don't know if that could be feasible.
Well, and the traffic thing was just like recently, but on the last podcast we were talking about like, you know, my truck tires got stabbed, and 3 cops showed up. Yeah, and it's like anybody could have wrote down what happened. First of all, and it's like, well, don't you want a cop to like investigate it? They weren't investigating anything. They just wrote down what happened, and then they told me if a detective decides to take this case, he'll be in touch with you.
Right.
So like anyone could have done that. Traffic wrecks. Why does a cop ever show up to that? Anyone can write down a report on what happened. Cop doesn't need to be there. 9 times out of 10, a cop doesn't need to show up to these things. And by the way, cops are saying the same thing. A lot of these speeches that police chiefs have given have encompassed like, why do we have so much responsibility as police officers? If a stray dog's out, that's not on us, but we get called for it. Yeah. You know, if some guy fell asleep in his truck, why do we get called out? That's not a crime, but we get called out for it. So like, if we had more social workers, less involvement with police, then I feel like not only the community would be safer, but police officers would be safer as well, and it would create a less stressful environment for everyone.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I mean, I don't know. It's a slippery slope when you start involving social workers into police activities. Meaning, I've heard that they want to send us on DV incidents. No, if you talk to any law enforcement, that's probably the most volatile
right. I was about to say,
situation you can go
tough,
to.
yeah.
That's stupid. Now, mental health crisis, somebody threatened suicide, cool. Send a therapeutic social worker out there. You know, Russ Lewis. He was one of my professors at Western, and he was a crisis interventionist, which would be if somebody was threatening suicide, he would come out and talk to him, right? And he said, if I did anything good, it was talk people off the ledge and save people's lives. He said, that will be my legacy for as long as I live. And I thought that was awesome because he found his purpose, right? But my purpose isn't to go to a DV incident. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to put myself in a situation where I may get killed.
Yeah.
You know, at that point, you can't mediate anything. That's why every time a police officer gets called to a DV incident, somebody has to be arrested, right? So,
well, and also think of it like this, though. You're approaching it from the perspective of a social worker, obviously. I'm approaching it from just a citizen, right? So if I'm in a domestic violence instance with my girlfriend, say she's beating the shit out of me, I'm beating the shit out of her right back. Somebody calls the police. Well, when the cops show up, I know I'm going to jail. They're not arresting her. So I'm immediately off the fucking handle. Like, if I'm going to jail, fuck everybody here. You know what I mean? But if a social worker were to show up, not even a social work, what I'm saying, not even social work, maybe like in that instance, you would dispatch a counselor, a therapist.
And then it all falls in social work umbrella.
And then when the social worker shows up, both parties understand, hey, nobody's going to jail. Everybody has arguments. You know, you've both beat the shit out of each other. And it's never okay to hit a woman. It's also never okay to hit a man as a woman. So, but I'm saying a social worker shows up, both parties understand, hey, if this is our chance to calm down. If the social worker can't handle this, then somebody might be going to jail.
Right.
So let's both take a deep breath. You know, you go to that end of the house, you go to this end of the house. Maybe we can meet a middle ground here. Maybe we can de-escalate the most tension-filled environment, the most high-risk environment, being a domestic violence call. Maybe we can mitigate that by not introducing a law enforcement officer where the man knows he's going to jail. If cops show up, you're going to jail. And not only going to jail, but again, they're bringing a weapon into it. And you're dealing with men are in general, and I hate generalizations, but we're very passionate, and a lot of men use passion along with their anger, which is what drives them to do crazy shit. And if you've ever noticed, this could just be a movie thing, but if you ever noticed in any movie where someone's negotiating with some guy that's holed up in a fucking house, the first thing they do is go, look, I'm putting my gun on the car. I'm coming towards you. And that's the first step to defusing and de-escalating a situation is to understand that, hey, you know, you fucked up, but it doesn't have to end this way.
Right.
We can stop this train before it goes off the tracks.
Right. So a few things. The police, you know, when a DV incident, if it gets so volatile, at that point you have to protect the people, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen after you leave. You have no idea. So if you take one person out of the equation, you know that person and the other person are going to be safe that night. Okay. Now, also, are there children there? Are there children there whenever that incident happened? Did they witness it? Whatever. If that's the case, then you have to take extra steps to keep the children safe, right? Because if they see that they can get involved in the physical, if that happened, emotional abuse, mental abuse. So we have, at that time, social workers have to keep those kids safe. So if you walk in, and this is why They don't need to be going to DV incidents. If you walk in, there's a domestic violence incident, and you see it, and like, well, we have to keep your kids safe. We have to send them elsewhere. What do you think's going to happen?
Take my kids, you
Or you can say,
Fuck going to jail. You're taking my kids.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
But you can say in
Right.
both instances where even if there isn't a kid, but you want to keep parties safe, like, hey, you know,
Do you have a
let's
place to go?
Grab a bag, take kids, you know, go stay at your mom's.
Right,
Or if
exactly.
you don't have anybody, you pack a bag, take the kid, go
Right.
stay at your mom, you know, whatever. Keep
But
the kids in the house.
the thing is, like,
ideally,
that's
but-
that's us separating, right?
Yeah.
That's us getting one individual out of the equation, so both of them will be safe.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they refuse, that's where a policeman's good for.
exactly.
You see what I'm saying? So a policeman needs to be there. If you're going to send a social worker to a DV incident, he needs to be there. Okay?
Yeah.
They tell us if anything, you feel any danger going to somebody's house, call a policeman. Okay? Now, when I do that, this person, you know, if the person may have gun charges, drug charges, whatever, meth, real bad methamphetamine addicts, I have to,
yeah.
because you don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Serious
unpredictable.
addicts,
Especially
yeah.
during an investigative phase, to where you're not like in recovery and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're not in treatment. They're real volatile, obviously.
Right.
I talked to one guy before, and he was showing us pictures of this guy who broke into his house and raped his wife, and it was pictures of himself.
Oh shit.
Me and the sheriff deputy looked at him and said, "Man, that's you." He goes, "No, it ain't. No, it ain't. That's this person that broke into my house and raped my wife." What? So
Yeah.
we have to. I mean, because we don't know at that time.
Yeah.
That DV incident could have drugs involved. You see what I'm saying? And so there's no talking down anybody when they're in method-induced psychosis
Yeah.
at all.
I'm not saying it's a broad sweeping thing.
Right.
Like I said, obviously police officers may need to be involved, especially
Mm-hmm.
if it's just a one party incident where like the man's beating the shit out of his old lady. Then there's not much to mediate there other than just,
Mm-hmm. Right.
hey bro, you got to go sit in the cell.
Social workers need to come in on the back end of that. When
Well,
every
I disagree
well,
because that's the way it is now.
what I'm saying is the back end to where all the situation is calmed down. You see what I mean? To where, okay, handle the situation, get them separated for a little bit, then a couple hours later have the social worker come in. Okay? You do not need to be there in the heat of the moment. All right?
Yeah.
First of all, they tell us not to carry. All right? If we do anything in the field that we're self-defense or whatever, they tell us they're not going to back us to court. Which, whatever, that's fine. Don't give us green light to shoot people and beat people up, right? That's never crossed my mind. This is why, I've never felt in danger because of how I treat people.
And you're confident is the big thing too.
Right.
You're
You
not
know.
you're not walking in there as somebody who's never put hands on somebody.
Right.
You're walking in there as a brown belt.
Right. So, you're right. But, I mean, physical altercation is physical altercation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You don't know what that person's hiding. You know what I mean? They could just bring something out, shoot you, stab you, whatever.
Absolutely.
But it's all about how you treat people. You approach them that way, whatever, to de-escalate. But sometimes it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know, I've had my altercations with people who are high on meth, you know, and
Yeah.
people who've been hopped up on heroin and fentanyl. It's not fun.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think we need to be in those positions. You see what I'm saying? Especially if we're not company issued a gun. You see what I'm saying? We don't have any training on that. So we're basically risking our lives. Every time we go out to a house, we don't know what's going on. We're risking our life.
The problem is, I guess my hypothesis is that if someone sees that it is a social worker, it's someone who is there to help, instead of a policeman who is there to help but comes with consequences. If someone sees help instead of consequences, they're going to react very differently to that situation.
So what are two things that people get so emotional about? Freedom and their children. Don't take away my freedom. Don't take away my children. They look at us as the same exact threat. You see what I'm saying? Because we're going to take something away from them. And that's the problem. You know what I mean? Now,
Well, and like I said, I'm not just talking about
No,
kids.
no, you're right.
In general, I'm
Right.
talking about like so many different instances, like, you know, like I said, traffic accidents and shit. Like, I just
Yeah.
feel like there's a broad sweeping. We don't need this many cops for this many things. And also where you said we put our lives on the line every day. Something I've been seeing, and you may have heard this too, is if you're not willing to take that chance, don't take that job. Which is where the whole BLM thing comes in, where we didn't choose to be black, you chose to be a cop. So what would your rebuttal to that be, as far as if they say, all right, Scott, you come in tomorrow, Thursday morning, you got to go out on all domestic violence issues. Cops are no longer handling that. If you feel like it's out of control, you got to call a cop, but that's just what it is.
Then they need to allow me to equip whatever self-defense mechanism I need to equip. You see what I'm saying? I'm not bitching about.
fair, yeah.
I'm not bitching about.
But then
About me risking my life.
Wouldn't you just be a police officer then?
I don't know.
Like,
what do I qualify as? You
At
know what I'm
that
saying?
point, that's why it's such a weird thing, man. 'Cause,
It's so my thing is
then
like
you're
because
introducing the possibility of death into a situation that doesn't require that at the moment. But
we don't know walking in there.
exactly. But it could be you walk in there with no gun and you get shot immediately, and you needed a gun. It could be you walk in there and tensions are high, and the sight of your gun could send him over the edge. Whereas if you didn't have a gun, you could have just talked him down. It could be so many different situations, and you never know what it's going to call for.
Right.
Which is the problem that every
Right.
police officer in the world has these days.
Correct. And we're supposed to make unannounced home visits, and then we're also, if that becomes a problem, they're never home, we're supposed to schedule visits. Twofold. You walk up in the house, make an unannounced home visit. There may be altercation going on. You may be caught in the middle of it, and then boom. You see what I'm saying?
Hey, I'm doing the podcast. Are you calling for that?
Yeah, I was gonna say something too, that like I was thinking about what you guys were talking about, that as well, as like in the social work profession, there is a big disparity between men and women as far as who takes that job. I mean, obviously, I don't want you to do any kind of like departmental stuff, but
there's only 3 male social workers at the cabin.
right, and that's generally because
Here.
and that is a profession that women enjoy going into, and that's totally fine. And I would never, ever, like, I know you. I know what you're capable of to a degree, and
I love you.
I would really, really, really hate to see somebody who got into the field to help people, who was somebody who was 120 pounds, 5'2", never once in their life done anything physical with anybody, walk into a situation like you guys were talking about earlier, where it's tensions are through the roof. You don't have a gun. You know what's going to happen? The person who walks into that room, their tensions go to the roof. They're not going to act the way they should act either. So it kind of just escalates the situation. Now there's 3 or 4 people involved rather than just 2 people, and then they may need help too, because it's like you're not wanted there, right? Exactly. So that was something that I was thinking about too. Is like not to point you out, but you're an outlier.
Yeah,
Like many
100%.
people in the social field, you look around and you're like, well, I've the lifestyle path that I've chose, this has got me ready for certain situations where I may have to do this or I may have to do that. And not everybody's like that. And I don't feel that in your line of work that you should force everybody to do that. But it's a different conversation to say other people in different professions, especially police officers, which I'm glad around here there's plenty of people that you see in and out of the gym that are trained to make sure that what happens in other parts of the world and other parts of the country don't happen, because they're scared. They're like, hey, I want to be in control. I want to make sure that I don't have to resort to the last resort, that I can make sure that no matter what happens at the end of the day, no matter what they did, the law will handle it. And I am just here, the mediator, to make sure that you get to the law and that I am not the judge, jury, and the executioner right now. And that's, I feel like, is the biggest issue right now, is that we're struggling so hard to find the medium between, these responsibilities that may need to be delegated out between people, but we don't want to go too far this way or too far that way, because like you said, if we just hand everything, you got it, how many social workers are going to die? How many social workers are going to end up in situations where they have fucking PTSD now because they weren't prepared for that, and they're not going to get extra funding for shit. They're just, here's more responsibility for the same amount of money. We all know how this works. We've all worked jobs at different companies in different positions. You get thrown extra responsibilities, and guess what? You get the same amount of pay, same amount of benefits, sometimes even fucking less for more shit. Right. So the biggest issue becomes, right, we understand that there may need to be a rebalancing of who needs to be doing what, but what we also know is that from a logical perspective, taking money and resources away from these people that need help controlling what is a society that values freedom and their loved ones above everything else You know, you can't just take away the resources that these people need to help control those, because what ends up happening is, you know, you get those police officers that make $20,000 a year. You get those police officers that they just go there because they're like, well, I knew a guy that was in the force, and, you know, I only have to have my GED, and, you know, and so I just applied for it and I got it. Awesome, sweet. They put me through this training course and now I'm on the street. You know, like, I know people like that, and I know good people like that have come from those backgrounds, and they're fantastic at what they do. And then I also know people that is like, that guy should never, ever, ever be telling people what to do with a gun on their hip.
Right.
And I know there's a vetting process. I've talked to people about the vetting process and how it works and how long it can take and what they can dig up and what they can't. But I've also seen that vetting process fail very miserably, not necessarily because that individual was not cut out for the job, but things evolved in a way that they are no longer able to handle that job, but they're locked in. You know, like there's people that, you know, may accrue PTSD on the job. And, you know, we were talking about this on one of the other podcasts. Like, are we taking care of these people's mental health the same way that's what I'm saying is like, are we taking care of the people that are we taking care of the mental health of the people that are taking care of the mental health of the people that need the help? And we're not. And I don't know all the details on that, but that's what scares me is like, if it was a big deal, and we know it is a big deal because officers in LA experience something different than the officers in Davis County. And we all understand that and we know that. But they may be getting the exact same like structure of integrity, the same structure of treatment, training, and everything, just because it's like, okay, this is how you train a police officer, this is how much training they need, and this is the standard for them right now. And you don't want to raise the standard so high that nobody wants a job when we can't get police officers, and then there's, you know, havoc everywhere because we can't get people to help, you know, because people just, you know, don't go into the profession. But at the same time, you know, how do you balance that? I'm not asking you this directly. This is just a question that I'm shooting out into the ether. You know, how do you balance that to where they get the right amount of training, where they're confident, they get the kind of mental health evaluations and help that they need too, because they're seeing the same shit that all these other people are saying. But how do we get them the same kind of treatment, the same kind of health, and the same kind of like, I want to say organizational security, where they can do their job without being absolutely scared of doing the wrong thing, and then also they don't even know what to do as far as the right thing, you know, and we saw that in the George Floyd case. None of those officers knew what to do.
You're not gonna like this answer.
I want to hear it though.
I've got a proposition as well.
It's going to come up from up high, because these stupid motherfuckers. Sorry.
You don't have to apologize here.
But, okay, I'll make an analogy. People making laws on marijuana who's never gotten high before, all right? Okay, they're making these laws against what police can do. No chokeholds, no arm bars, whatever. Now, you've never done jiu-jitsu. You don't know the value of jiu-jitsu. You don't know how the mechanics of putting somebody to sleep safely. You know what I'm saying? You don't know that. Yeah. So before Andrew Yang, you know, he said, was it purple belt? Blue belt?
Purple belt.
Purple
it's
belt.
Purple belt, yeah.
Savage. All policemen should be purple belts.
I feel like blue is probably a good standard.
100%. Jeremy Hamilton, I never want to run into Jeremy Hamilton in my life if I commit a crime. We all know how. But thing is, he's only had to do it a couple times. You see what I'm saying? That other people are real combative. But how he treats people and his confidence and stuff, he never has to do any of that. Right? Obviously, there's situations we cannot avoid. You know what I'm saying? Somebody else doing something stupid and you're there, I got to do this. Right? But having that confidence, you're able to de-escalate. You see what I'm saying? And you're more confident in your actions, you're more confident in your words, and you're more confident that if something goes south, that you're able to protect yourself.
I don't understand why we don't have I feel like police officers should have a monthly log where you have to log 20 hours of whatever martial art you want. Fuck it. We don't have to say just jiu-jitsu. Some people might not like jiu-jitsu, although it's the most practical for what you'll be doing. But at least some kind of hand-on physical combat type of fucking thing. Whether you want to do karate, taekwondo, whatever, at least it's not lethal.
Here's my thing. And because we know martial arts, I don't feel comfortable with them choosing because you get all these McDojo bullshit martial arts. Have a karate black belt come in and try to fight me. I'm gonna take him down, choke him, right?
Yeah.
Anybody can throw a lucky punch, right? And I tell people whenever I teach class, we want to put the person in the position to we are the most dominant. We know the most stuff, and they're the most susceptible to these attacks. Okay, if we meet someone on the street, we don't know what they're capable of. We have to believe that they know the same shit that we do, right?
Exactly. If the whole point is to establish confidence in the officer and their physical abilities, then it doesn't matter what discipline they're studying, because they're gonna even if they're a fucking 3-time black belt in karate, which is complete horseshit after 2 days in class, they're still gonna feel that they can control it.
But that's a fake confidence. That's what I'm saying, because
That's fair.
I know what I'm capable of. I know what I can do out on the streets that's
Right.
going to be functional. Okay, you throw one punch at me and you miss, I'm taking you down because I know that I can end that fight right there.
Right.
Okay, you don't know if you can punch somebody if you're going to knock them out. You don't know if you're going to kick somebody if they're going to catch it and take you down.
While I agree with you, I feel like if you were to talk to anyone in any other discipline, they would have the same exact passion in their voice that you do now. Which would be the point, right?
You ever heard the Gracie Challenge?
No, I haven't.
The Gracie Challenge. A long time ago, whenever the Gracies came over to the United States, they put out in these newspapers, you got a martial art, come fight us. And people would dojo storm. People would come see all the Gracies and try to fight them and try to beat them up. Guess how many times they lost?
Probably 0.
Never. Because nobody could fucking touch jiu-jitsu. Nobody knew what it was.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So you had all these karate experts come in and get destroyed. Kickboxers, this, and this. Bodybuilders, get destroyed. And what they do, they put the 150, 160-pound guy on them. You know what I'm saying? The blue belts.
Yeah.
Not the black belts, the blue belts. To show them, that's our blue belt. He's 160 pounds, and he
Right.
just choked the shit out of you. Your martial art don't mean shit.
I completely agree with you that jiu-jitsu is by far and away the best
Right,
martial
and
art.
that's the thing. We have to educate these lawmakers. You see what I'm saying? When we have foster children, they have a list of the money that's allocated. All right, and for extracurricular activities, it lists karate. Okay, now if I go to somebody, but hey, instead of karate, you want to take jiu-jitsu? They're like, what's jiu-jitsu? You know what I'm saying? What is that? I don't know that. The ground fighting. Oh, I don't know. What about karate? Yeah, let's do karate.
Yeah.
Because of the mainstream media, they don't fucking know. You see what I'm saying? UFC 1 proved that jiu-jitsu and wrestling. Anywhere you can dictate where the fight goes is the extreme martial art. You want that, right?
Yeah.
Where do you dictate where the fight goes? Wrestling and jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And judo.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But they're all
Blended together in some
submission
weird...
grappling.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's right there. Become an expert at submission grappling. All law enforcement, and that will alleviate a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Here's my proposition to your question. So when you apply for the military, not only do you have to take the ASVAB, which is basically a large aptitude test, but you essentially put in a recommendation for where you want to go. That doesn't mean you're going to get that job. That just means that that's where you want to go. So instead of applying for the police department, why do we not have it to where you apply for social services? And you take an ASVAB, an aptitude test, that it's not just as simple as if you walk into this situation, how would you handle it? That's not how the ASVAB is for the military. It's reading comprehension, mathematical comprehension, mechanical comprehension. All this shit gives you a score. You have to get a certain score to be eligible for these jobs. Each job has a ranking, right? So instead of applying to be a cop, you apply to be a social worker. And you take this test, and it basically allows not only the employer, being the local government, but also the person applying for the job to see, oh, okay, I wasn't cut out to be what I wanted to be, but I can still handle all these great other situations. So like, whereas you could say, well, this guy's just a fucking power trip. He just applied because he wants to tell people what to do. You wouldn't have that anymore necessarily. You might obviously, you're still gonna have power over people, but it hopefully wouldn't result in deadly situations. And also you would have, I forgot where I was going with that, but I'm saying instead of, the same way we have police officers, we have detectives, we have SWAT, we have all these different branches of the police force. Why can we not have traffic enforcement? Obviously still police officers being armed officials that handle situations that need to be armed. Social workers, counselors, therapists, things like that, all these things. So now we still attract the individuals who are willing, like police officers are, to put their lives on the line every day and to handle situations that nobody else wants to fucking handle. But now you don't get to necessarily delegate yourself to the career field you want. Now it's, okay, I need to take this test. If I score well, if I'm actually the right person for this job, I have a shot at that job. If I'm not, then maybe I don't need a gun on my hip, but I can still help people. Because if you're applying to be a cop, that should be your goal anyway. Is to help people. So maybe that would be a better, if they want to be all fucking militarized and have a fucking Humvee in the OPD parking lot, then maybe we should start treating them more like military. Maybe they shouldn't just be, oh, I fucking applaud and I got it. Here's your gun and a badge. Go tell people what to do all day.
There's definitely scenarios where the law enforcement officers could take more of a military approach in certain situations. I do agree.
I mean, they have
with that.
rankings as military.
I definitely agree with that.
And yet they seem to take the power, the equipment, and the ranking structure of military without any of the discipline or accountability of the military.
It can, that's where it gets tricky. It's like you have to design a test for this. And
well, you could literally just take the ASVAB.
Yeah.
You could literally use the ASVAB test. I don't know if you had to take it. We had to mandatorily take it.
Yeah, I did.
So I don't know if you remember it, but then once you got your ASVAB score, you could look at a list of military jobs and see what you were eligible to even go for.
So I just thought about this. Instead of putting more liability and duties on social workers, why can't we turn around and educate these policemen about social work, meaning the relationships with the people of the community and stuff like that, the stuff that we do. You know what I mean? Instead of putting us at risk for no reason, why don't we work on changing the climate and changing the environment of the police force to where they actually try to build a relationship with their people. You know what I mean? Just like the Atlanta thing, they woke him up and he started freaking out. If they knew how to de-escalate a situation, if they had that ability, that's why we have negotiators, right? Specific person. If every cop was educated on that can make a whole lot of difference. You see what I'm saying? You wouldn't need us to come in for those situations because that would be what they're already doing. You see what I'm saying? That doesn't add more to that. That makes their job easier. That makes them better at their job.
Right. I'm suggesting
Right.
Like many different branches for specialized fields.
Yeah,
so like
absolutely.
you as a child care worker wouldn't be dealing with traffic enforcement. That would be somebody else. You know what I mean? So like you would go out for only your job still, but instead of a cop having to do a million different things.
I'm understanding exactly what you're saying.
Okay. As long as
I'm just saying
like
I'm trying to figure out how to.
My whole hypothesis is that if you were to take the legal, a cop is very one dimensional. You done something illegal, I'm taking you to jail. And by the way, I've got a badge and a gun. That's how it is. You don't get to if, ands, or buts. You're going to jail because I said you're going to jail. That's that. That is what everyone hates. That is what everyone. That's why tensions go through the roof. That's why when you see a cop behind you, oh fuck, strap in, both hands on the wheel. Make sure you use your turn signal. Like, because you don't want that altercation. You don't want that situation in your life. Whereas, I'm obviously nobody. My thing is, especially when a cop's behind me, I can speak for myself, obviously, I don't ever think about the monetary repercussions of being pulled over. That's not what's going through my head. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with that cop is what's going through my head. I'm not in fear for my life or anything. I just don't want to deal with it. I don't ever think, oh, it's going to be, $150. I just don't have that this month, blah, blah, blah. I don't ever think about that. I just think, God damn it, dude, this guy's about to come over here and bitch me out and tell me what to fucking do. So I just don't understand why, if cops are complaining about having too much to do, and I agree, I feel like their job is far too broad, then maybe that would be a better solution instead of defunding the police and in essence of taking money away from the police. Instead, we divide that money up into several specialized job fields, and we could even have it where, like, yeah, sorry, I know you want to get something out.
No,
but,
no, no. I was it just
how
popped in my head.
fucking, when the fire department gets called, or when EMS gets called, the fire department goes with. So maybe when a child care worker goes, a police officer goes in case that situation gets dangerous. Maybe not have them go in the home, maybe just hang out in the yard. You know what I mean? To keep the situation low until, if they hear yelling or something going on, like, okay, now we got to go in.
So what I was going to say, you talk about all these police have to respond to all these calls. So what we do when we get a referral, we have the allegations and we have the list of standard criteria that it may or may not meet, and we have to ask other people. We have it's called centralized intake. We send it up there. They look at it. They look at the SOPs and see if it qualifies as any abuse or neglect type stuff. Okay, and if it doesn't, then we don't go out. All right. So if somebody calls in and says, "Well, this is going on, this, and this," why can't they have a certain set of criteria that the operator somebody has? Like, is this a crime? Do we need to we have certain time frames that we meet on certain situations. Like if it's imminent, like their life is in danger, like sexual abuse, something, it's 4 hours. You know what I'm saying? We're getting there. We got to go. You know what I mean? And do you take 4 hours to get there? Absolutely not. As soon as you get it imminent, you go. Because you don't know what's going on, that, that child could be in danger, somebody could be dead, whatever. So it's an emergency, right? Why can't you have time frames on when a police can respond to that call and say, okay, let's take Cody, for instance. He gets a call for a dog being loose, okay? And somebody, there's a stray dog coming out here. Obviously, that's not a crime.
Right.
But pass it on to animal control. Golly, sorry. You pass it on to animal control, they can come out there and get it, okay? So you connected that person to resources, all right? This person did something, something that is so stupid that it may borderline be a crime, like jumping a fence or walking through trespassing something, all right? Take the information, pass it along to the officer. They look at it. What time frame does this meet? 24 hour, 48 hour, 72 hour? Then we go out and do our investigation instead of responding to it right now because we may have other stuff to do. You know what I mean? That may be a
It
change.
may be both things that you guys are saying.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I'm propositioning like a whole fucking restructure of our organization,
Right.
And I think what you're proposing is far more attainable and far more we get implemented far easier.
Right.
I just feel my whole thing is how do we get rid of the feeling of, oh fuck, the cops are here. I feel like
community relations.
it's easy to say, it's
I know,
not
but
easy
what
to
else
change
we're going to do?
perspective.
Yeah,
what else we're going to do?
that's true.
We have to do something to change everybody's perspective, and to change perspective. Okay, and this is a conversation I've been having ever since all this race stuff started. Right, the Black Lives Matter pushed real hard, and it's weird to me that if you talk to somebody, how many black people do you know?
And
How many black people do you know?
Several.
Okay, everybody has that one black person they know that they think is cool. Oh man, that black guy's cool, whatever.
Yeah.
How do you know that? Because you spent the time to have a conversation to get to know that person. You don't judge them by the way they look, correct? So there's a barrier up between the social service field, the police, the law enforcement field, and the community because it's hard to have that conversation because of what we represent. We represent the government, right? So they automatically get put on the defense. Instead of understanding what we're there for, because that's my MO. As soon as I come up, I'm explaining to them why I'm there. I'm there to help you. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here to get you in trouble. I'm not a snitch. I'm here to help you. You see what I'm saying? And whenever you can feel that veil drop, you can feel the guard come down. And that's when you build a relationship. That's when you get success, right? We just have to alleviate all that. Alleviate the bad vibes that we give off to people and just have, I don't know, we have to come to some sort of understanding.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think a big thing is too, like you're saying, there needs to be more sense of community. Like, who here knows every single police officer? Like obviously, you in your line of work, and obviously through the gym and everything, like you you see them on a daily basis. So you know several of them on a personal level where you've talked to them, had conversations with them, roll with them on the mat and everything like that. But other people, like I even seen, like not me, but there's some people that haven't seen a cop in 4 or 5 years. And the last time they saw him, I got put in jail because, I was whatever, doing this, doing that. So that sense of community, they don't have. So the only thing that they have in their mind, as far as, what the police are concerned, is when I see them, I go to jail, and a lot of people are always going to have that you can't get. Some people, there's some people you just can't get certain things out of their head. It will be burned in there, and they will not let anyone change that idea in their head, and that just happens. But the reality is, most people want to know who's taking care of them and who's watching over them, right? You want to know who your boss is at work. You want to know who's making the rules, right? We all want to know who all these legislators are doing this. We want to know who the president is. We want to know who's doing this, Supreme Court justices. We want to know who they are, who's making the decisions. I think there needs to be more situations where the community is together in a fact that we are working together when it comes to enforcing in the community, because when it comes down to it, police officers have to deal with the community, and they are stretched very thin in a lot of places like LA, New York, Baltimore, Dallas, places like that. There's thousands of police officers. You can never know all of them, right? But there can be good efforts put forward to, show that law enforcement officers, people that work in, anything that has to do with the law, are not out to get you necessarily, but are there to help the community be a better community. And that's something that's lost a lot because we have a big issue in this country with separating people who have criminal actions and people who have like mental health issues. We don't make that divide. There's people that are just out to hurt people. They don't care. And a lot of times the people that don't care and want to hurt people have mental health issues. And I'm sure you know that. And the biggest issue of all of that is when you throw drugs into it. Because sometimes the drugs that are meant to help hurt, and the drugs that sometimes seem innocuous are not so innocuous, and they send people over the edge. So we have a big issue in this country with splitting up, where people have criminal issues, where they grew up in a life of crime, this seems okay to them, but it's really not. And then people who are really in hell, that are really struggling and don't know how to get where they're at and do better for themselves, so they just take the easiest path with drugs, violence, criminal activity. And so instead of, having a sense of community, like, let's lift these people up out of those positions, throw them in a box for years until they're out. And then they get out, and all they've seen for the past few years is more people in the same box that are so resentful and hate the community and hate everybody else, hate the police officers. Nobody helped me. It was just me. Fuck all them. I don't give a shit. And it sucks because in this country, we have so many people in jail for nonviolent drug offenses that never did anything that really ever hurt anybody, but they're locked up for stupid menial crimes for years and years because of stupid actions from not just Democrats, not just Republicans. Everybody involved at the high level decided, okay, these sorts of situations, blanket this, blanket that, and then what do you know? We have the largest incarceration rate in the world. People are not being rehabbed. They're ending up back in jail more than anywhere else in the world. We're not fixing these people. We're just perpetuating a system that uses these people essentially as money-making revenues through this system that has slowly funneled, whether it be any kind of community, rather than them being a community, they are now an avenue for revenue. And to me, that's disgusting, and that doesn't represent the United States, and that's not what we should be as a people. And people know that, but people at the top that make a lot of these decisions, we all know a lot of them, and you said it, that they're making decisions that aren't informed, right? We're talking about the mass. You can't just make people be sanitary. You can't just make people social distance, and you can't just fucking make people be a certain way. You just can't, right? Without being with them and being like, look, here's the consequences of your actions. Here's this. Here's an avenue for you that's not going to hurt other people. You can be a free person without stepping on everybody else around you. Truly being free doesn't necessarily mean that you have to shit on everybody else around you to get to the top and step on everybody else's hands. Helping your fellow man is one of the freest things that you can do. And you spoke about it, that the professor that you were telling me about, one of his core in life was that all these people that he impacted, he didn't give a shit about the money.
Right.
The money wasn't something to him.
Because you don't get paid to be you don't get paid that much.
Exactly. What mattered to him was that he made a difference, and the people that he affected also made a difference in a positive light. And he knows that the people that he taught, the things that he learned, didn't affect the communities in a negative way. And I mean, I know that's a super rant, but it's really been burned on my mind. But go ahead.
And that's you brought up a lot of points, good points. We have another problem in this country with the social media, talking about like not recognizing mental illness, whatever, but we also have a problem with these stupid people who get on social media and push agendas, narratives. Now they're trying to normalize certain mental health issues that are not mental health issues. Your brain's just fucked up. Pedophilia. There's been TED Talks on trying to normalize pedophilia. Okay? I don't understand. All right? That's one of the biggest issues in this country is we've given idiots a voice. And people don't want to vet out the information, and people go along with it. It's like, no, that's not normal. You know, if you're attracted to children, your brain is fucked up beyond repair. Yeah. Right? If you could kill somebody with no empathy, your brain's fucked. Your frontal lobe, some down the line, you got damage somewhere. And that's part of the issue, too, that people are trying to say, this isn't bad, this is okay. So that kind of throws a kink into it because the climate we're in today, social media kind of runs shit. You know what I'm saying? People are using their voice to influence lawmakers and the government and stuff. What is going to happen here? What is this a conspiracy theory? All this pushing the agenda of pedophilia being normal because of all the elites getting in trouble for it? Is that what that is? Is that because, did they put on all these TED Talks? Did they make this person go out there and say this?
No, it's this progressive snake eating itself.
Right.
And a lot of factors in life, progressive ideas are inherently progressive. They drive our civilization, our way of thinking, our innovation. They drive everything forward. And so I heard the TED Talk you were referring to, and basically the woman was essentially saying, we accept every form of sexuality as natural. We can't say that homosexuality is natural and that that's okay because that's how you were born, but tell pedophiles that that's not okay, even though that's how they were born. And while I find that extremely repulsive and disgusting, as well as you, is what you're expressing, it's that progressive snake eating itself as to who can be the most open-minded towards everyone.
And here's the thing, though. She's comparing apples to oranges. She should just quit fucking talking. Because if you're gay, you're not hurting anybody.
Right.
You're not hurting a single person. Okay?
Consenting adults.
If you're a rapist, you're hurting somebody. Okay? Yep. If you and Chase, love each other, and y'all boyfriend boy, that's fine. You're not hurting any. You may be hurting my feelings. You know what I'm saying?
Leaving you out.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. You maybe get jealous and stuff. But when you're a pedophile, you are damaging that child for life. You are hurting somebody. Okay?
And perpetuating the cycle.
Correct.
More than likely.
And children are innocent, and you are hurting an innocent thing, right? I mean, if the Bible doesn't teach us anything, Jesus loved the children, right? Why are you trying to damage something that Jesus loves so much? I mean, just going that route.
Yeah.
People, because these pedophiles want to push this religious agenda.
Do they?
To kind of, oh, fuck yeah. I love children. I'm a Christian. I do this, this, and this. A lot of people have. A lot of serial killers have hid behind religion. Yeah. The PTK killer was a deacon in this fucking church.
Yep.
It's all facade. You see what I'm saying? These people, it's not normal because they have to manipulate somebody. They have to groom somebody. They know exactly what they're doing. Yeah, they can't control it because they're fucked up and evil. You know what I'm saying? Being a homosexual is not fucked up. It's not abnormal.
It's not evil. Yeah.
No, it's not evil. I don't care what anybody says. Love is not evil. If you have two consenting adults, okay, that's not evil. Now, if you have a grown man raping a child, regardless of love, I don't care.
Or a grown woman.
That raping, period.
Anybody,
Because
yeah,
you can't say having sex with a child, that's
Exactly.
raping.
Yeah.
It's regardless.
Yeah.
Okay? That child doesn't know what intimate love is.
Yeah.
Right? So she doesn't know. She may love that person like it may be the uncle or a family member. She may love that person, but she doesn't know that kind of love that comes with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
absolutely, yes.
And they're taking
Conceptualize.
right. They're taking that ability for her to understand the love away from her.
Yeah.
And she's normalizing that behavior.
If somebody wants to say pedophilia is normal, you need to watch the documentary A Child of Rage. Okay?
I need to see that then.
A Child of Rage is an old HBO documentary. It's about this girl who was severely sexually abused, and by the age of 4, she was masturbating. Okay, masturbating so much she was rubbing sores on her clitoris. All right, and this whole documentary is about her therapy and her recovery. So she's sitting there talking about how she wants to murder her foster parents. She does this, she does that, and it's to do from severe sexual abuse. If you think that result of that is fucking normal, the action of that consequence is fucking normal, you're evil.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You destroyed this girl, and if somebody didn't care about her and swoop in and save her, she'd still be fucked up today. Now she's a normal functioning adult. She's a nurse. Because you know why? She was damaged. So she wants to help other people.
So there's a reaction.
Yes. You know, and it was cool because you see where she has no empathy. She talks about wanting to kill her parents, kill her brother, killing animals, to where at the very end, when she starts talking about this, she starts crying. And she feels bad. You know, they broke through. They rewired her brain. You see what I'm saying? Because of somebody else damaging her. So they came in before irreparable damage was caused, and they helped her. Versus somebody who's done it their whole life, and it's far beyond help. There is no treatment for pedophiles. The only treatment for a pedophile is death, because you can't hurt anybody anymore. You can't hurt yourself, right? So I just don't understand.
Yeah.
And I'll come back to it. I feel like them trying to normalize this is because all this bullshit coming out by the pedophilia ring, Epstein and stuff like that. They're trying to, I don't know. And it's stupid.
We have, as a society, we have constantly pushed ourselves to new horizons and always tried to push the envelope with Western society. We have always tried to be as progressive as possible without, like, you know, collapsing in on ourselves. And one of the things that I've noticed, you know, growing up over the past, like, decade specifically, is that most people that you run into have Judeo-Christian moral values, where no matter how you want to look at it, they abide by the Ten Commandments, however way they want to tell you about it, even if they weren't taught that specifically. A lot of times we all agree on moral virtuous values that we should all have. And one of the reasons why is because Western society was founded on Judeo-Christian values. And what I've noticed is that there is a extreme effort to blow out those moral foundations from society, which in some ways is okay because it gives us the ability to replace those with newer, stronger values that, you know, will aid us in the future with technology and everything going on and everything changing all the time, because things have to change. They can't be the same all the time or they'll fall apart. You know, things have to continually improve and be better. But what I have noticed is you are seeing weird shit like that, like you mentioned, where people are trying to normalize things that shouldn't be normalized. And it's problematic because there are people that are very atheistic that believe that, you know, we should do away with all of the Judeo-Christian values in general because we're a smart we're a smart civilization that doesn't need these things. But the fact of the matter is, when you start to remove these things one by one, what happens is everything else becomes extremely unstable. And like you said, love is love. Two consenting adults, all of us here in this room, we don't give a shit. There's plenty of people that care for other reasons, no matter if they're religious or whatever, okay? But at the same time, we have to draw the balance between that progressive snake and the tradition that perpetuates us up, because we have the stability. You have to have the stability and that progressiveness to push us up forward, to always strive for something new, strive for something better, strive for that utopia that we all believe in. But we can't, solidify ourselves in the strict conservative values of the past, because the past is different. The things that people did in the past might not have been what you thought. Okay, well, nowadays, if you look at somebody from the past, you'd be like, I can't believe they did that. But back then, all their peers were like, well, this is how everybody acts, and this is how we all treat each other. So it doesn't seem weird, or we don't feel like we're hurting anybody. But that's just the normality of the day. And now, I see that people want things to move so quickly now that we're destabilizing our culture very quickly, especially in the West. There's different countries that abide by different rule sets and have different kinds of sets
Thank
of
God for Iraq.
Well,
wait.
well, the thing is, there's so many different ways that there's so many different modes of being that you can inhabit that could be positive or negative, but we all know that there's a few that, if you want to be a good person who contributes to society and also doesn't destroy everything around themselves, you have to do this, this, and that. You can't envy your neighbor. You can't kill your brother. These simple stories that you hear in Genesis, that maybe in other religious texts that I'm not super familiar with, they have a transcendent value that should apply to any civilization that doesn't want to just fall apart at the seams. And when you see stuff like what you're talking about, those TED Talks, and the people that are the progressive snake trying to eat itself, those in time should fall apart. They should, because they're not sustainable. There's so many people that believe in things that it's so hard to explain, because there's so many people that say, I'm virtuous, I have morality, and I have all these things, but it's not because of my religion, or it's not because, somebody taught me from religion who was religious. They just say, oh, I just have these things intrinsically. But we all know at the same time, when you're born, if I was born and thrown out in the woods and I was raised by something other than humans and somehow I was able to make it, I wouldn't have those fucking morals. No. I would have the morals of the woods. I would have the morals of the wild. And we all know that. Nobody's going to say, well, if you raise a kid out in the wild, he'll come back and, shouldn't kill your neighbor. You should, not covet your neighbor's possessions. They won't have those things because they've been raised intrinsically in a different manner. So when you see things where people are trying to blow out those foundational pillars that have created our society and made it something that has, first of all, raised more people out of poverty than ever before, and at a rate that's never been seen before. So many people are being lifted out of dirt than ever before. And that's because there's people that are constantly working to help other people. And they want to do that because they were damaged in some way, maybe, or they've seen the effects of that damage on other people, and they say, I never want to be what that is. Right. And a lot of those morals that those people are perpetuating, maybe Judeo-Christian, they may come from something else as well. I'm not saying they have to be that, but we have to be very wary as a civilization, what shit we take out from the bottom and add to the top, because one of those things may be, in an alternate reality, pedophilia is okay. And then, what the fuck happens then? We go back to some place that's fucking wild that nobody wants, right? Obviously now, because we all have this, everybody's in consensus. I don't know anybody that's just sometimes it's okay. Everybody's no, that's the fucking line. People may be like, it's not cool to smoke weed, or it's not cool to drink, but nobody's It's okay to have intimate relationships with kids. No, nobody. So there are other things like that intrinsically to people that we know in our society that we shouldn't mess with or try to dissolve, but people want to anyways, because if they do, they get some sort of superiority over everybody else.
I tell you what has impressed me about this Black Lives Matter movement the most is that whenever it first started out, there was like a progression. Okay, when it first started out, the country was split. Right, it was really weird. It was really weird. Like I don't know, but now it's like if you're not with Black Lives Matter, you're a fucking racist.
Yeah.
Because they've actually had time to explain. Now all the rioting and looting, that's different. That's not Black Lives Matter, right?
Right.
That's other people taking advantage of the situation. That's not what they're trying to push, right? So, but it has helped raise awareness, and they've pushed through, and every time something happens, they come up, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. Cool. Now you have explained what Black Lives Matter means. Okay, people want to say all lives matter. Yes, but you hear people say until Black Lives Matter, all lives don't matter.
I was on the side of things where, like, when Black Lives Matter first came up, I was all over all lives matter. Like, what the fuck? You can't exclude everybody else. And then what changed my perspective is I had seen basically a meme that someone had created of it was a house, like a normal house, and then a house that was on fire. And the fire truck showed up to the house that was on fire and started spraying it. And the neighbor came outside and said, well, what about my house? And then it said at the bottom, hashtag all houses matter. And I was like, oh, that's what this is.
And I've broke it down to just like the same story about, I've never been afraid for my life when I got pulled over. Never. Okay? So we don't know what the black demographic has faced. So it's gotten the Black Lives Matter have gotten a bad rap because of the media. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, nowadays, because of social media has gotten so big, it has exposed a lot of people in high-ranking positions as being fucking pieces of shit, right? As being racist. And I felt like that's the best thing that's come out of this because equality is actually being understood now. Does that make sense? Like Marshall Sanders. He asked me, he's like, man, what are you doing? I think it's August 1st. He's going down to the courthouse because they're going to talk about removing that statue. I said, you know what, Marshall? I said, I'm going to support you. I said, I really don't have the dog in the fight, but if you're my friend and you look at that statue and it offends you, I will support you.
See, I don't understand why more people can't just grasp because, like, okay, I was talking to Brooklyn about this because a lot of people on my social media, just in general, which I don't know 99% of them, but a lot of the people on there were split. Some people were like, yeah, tear it down. Some people were like, that's heritage, blah, blah, blah. Right. And Brooklyn was asking me, like, where do you stand on this? And I was just thinking, I was like, when it comes to any situation, I try to look at it in the simplest of terms, okay? So when it comes to a Confederate statue at the courthouse, what is the good that comes from leaving it up? The good, at most you could put in that column, we remember the guy. First of all, if you don't know who the statue is, shut the fuck up.
Right.
But if you do know who the statue is, then at least you could, because I don't know who the fuck it is, but I'm also not rooting to keep it up. But at least you could say, we're remembering this figure from history who means something to me. That is the only good thing you could put in that column if you want to keep it up, right? Now in the bad column, we have every time that a person looks at that, they feel oppressed. They're reminded of a time that they weren't allowed to have a name or read.
What does that cause? Cause anxiety. Cause mental health issues.
And it causes division.
Yes.
It causes other than. It causes all these things that far outweigh anything that you could have in the good column. And I'm not saying destroy it. Sure, if you want to put it in a Confederate museum, I'm all for that. But I'm saying if your problem is erasing history, we don't have to erase history. We can relocate that history to an appropriate facility,
Right.
like we have Holocaust museums.
Yeah.
We have ways of remembering history without leaving a concentration camp in the middle of a populated city now.
Yeah.
I feel like they should keep it there because that's a reminder.
A lot of them haven't been destroyed.
torn down. Yeah, but
Somebody told me they were looking at it. I'm like, no, they need to leave that there
There's
because
monuments.
that is a reminder
Right.
to it's. You know, obviously, if you look at a concentration camp, that's evil, 100% purebred evil.
Yep.
But
and ignorance.
ignorance, yes. But if you leave that up, that's history. And there's a lot of Holocaust deniers, dumbasses. So if you leave that up, that's a reminder to not fall into that trap of political dumb shit. You know what I'm saying? He manipulated millions of people, and that's the result of evil.
Yeah.
So if you leave that in the middle of a populated city, everybody be like, that's the result. That is what could happen if we don't think for ourselves.
So, along the same plane, would you advocate for the leaving of like a fully functional plantation that hadn't been changed at all? Just as a reminder? Or do you think the black community would have a strong opposition to that?
I don't know because in the
don't either.
South,
I don't either. It's more of a rhetorical question than it is like
here's
actually
in the
answered,
South
but
though.
there's a lot of plantation houses. I'm talking about like
Yeah, there's a plantation in Washington, D.C.
I'm talking about as if everyone had abandoned it, like the concentration camps, and you still see, which would be cool to like see that part of history, not for black people, obviously,
Right.
but just as a third party, non-biased, looking at it, what used to happen would be interesting to me.
Then there's also other side, and this I may be way off track with this because their the slaves, their ancestors can look at that plantation and be like, look how beautiful this is. If my people didn't work on this, it would not be this beautiful. We are the reason this plantation looks the way it does. I know that's a stupid perspective.
No, it's not. And a lot of the division, the divisiveness that we have right now is because we have so many fucking people
Right.
speaking for a group of people, right? So whether it's me or whether it's my buddy Zach, who's a mixed dude,
Yeah, absolutely.
or whether it's my buddy who's a black dude, like I can say whatever the fuck I want and say that I'm saying it on behalf of every white person. And the guy 2 houses down from me is going to go, dude, shut the fuck up. I don't agree with you at all.
Yeah.
So we've got the same thing going on right now in the black community around all the BLM stuff. And for me, as a white guy who's just trying to be as sensitive as possible to what they're experiencing and help change that, it's confusing and like, okay, so growing up, I was always told, we'll say people with handicap, whether it's race, whether it's handicap, whatever, you're supposed to treat that person as if you don't see that, right? That you're just a person. You come in a wheelchair, hey, what's up, man? Like, you don't like, do a double take. In the same way with a black guy. Black come in that room, hey, what's up, man? You're like, oh, God, it's a black guy. Scoot a little closer. You're like, you don't treat them any differently, whether it's in a good way or a bad way. But now it seems that the tide is turning to, no. You acknowledge that I'm a black guy, and you treat me differently because I'm a black guy.
And I think this is why.
And that's what's being weird.
So this is why, and I think this is the answer, because it's called. I mean, people pushing the narrative of white privilege. I have white privilege because I have not, like I said, if I get pulled over, I'm not fearing for my life.
Yeah.
Okay. We have to understand. We have to recognize that African Americans or black people, whatever they want to be called now, because it changes all the time. I don't know. So I'll say black people.
I think
black
African
community.
Americans far more offensive.
Okay, the black community. Okay?
Yeah, I agree with you.
So we need to recognize that they have different experiences than us. Okay, for instance, Louisville, we had to go up to Louisville for an investigation, and the climate of Louisville, it's on the fucking first 48. All right, it's not the safest place in the world, regardless of who's doing what. Right.
Yeah.
So I turn the corner, and it's an apartment complex, run down. I park across the street at a church. I get out, ginger, white, right? Got khakis, shoes. I'm carrying a binder. Stick out like a sore fucking thumb, okay? Now, the complex I'm going in, there's a bunch of black individuals just sitting out there hanging out. At that time, I had to make a decision, okay? It doesn't matter what I think about them because that didn't bother me at all. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. They're just people hanging out. But what is their perception of me?
Right.
Okay? You have to respect their perception of you, whoever that person is. Okay? you could talk to them. You say hi to that guy, that girl, whatever they're doing, and they may take that offense. They may be like, why the fuck are you here? Why are you talking to me? You trying to get information out of me? You trying to get me to snitch on one of my people? You know what I'm saying? So I had to make a decision. Do I just mind my own business, get in and get out, and not offend anybody? Or do I try to talk to these people, say hi, and maybe offend them and get fucked up in the process? Because I don't know. I don't know what their life's experiences are. I don't know the last person they came in contact with. They may have just had social services here, and they had a bad interaction with them, and I get fucked up. So head down, just kept walking. You know what I'm saying? And that's just me respecting that person's perception, whatever it may be. If he wanted to talk to me, he would have said hi.
Yeah.
But he didn't, so I didn't say hi to him.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's what people are missing, and it's just empathy, right?
Yeah.
Trying to figure out where that person is coming from. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's a reason why, and I've had this theory. It's kind of a joke, halfway not. How much disrespectful shit has the white man did to the black community through history?
Has the white man done to just about every
civilization
ever?
you
Including
know,
our own?
Right.
Fit it on a piece of paper.
And the black community, if you think about it, they are huge on respect.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
And if you show, like just anybody, but if you show them respect, what do you mean? You don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was when people get out of line and they disrespect people because you're disrespecting the culture.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you have no right to come in and say anything about my culture because you don't know where I come from. You know, and it's really weird for us to be sitting here talking about race relations without a black guy here giving his.
But see, and there, I feel the same way,
Right.
but it should not be like that.
Right, I know, but like, I would like to get another perspective.
Right, but
Hey,
then you get another perspective, and it's, oh, well, you got a token black guy in the room.
No, absolutely
You know
not.
what I mean?
Because
But no,
we
that's
are
how
here.
it's portrayed.
Right. But the thing is,
Absolutely.
nowadays, I don't give a fuck what white people think, right? I don't care. I want all the black community, all my black friends, every black person I come in contact with, I want for them to know that I support them, right? So me having somebody here, you know what I'm saying, just for example, me having somebody here, having their perception, having your angle, and me talking about, like, is that a correct way to go about this? Am I supporting your
What
community?
if it's Nick Cannon sitting beside you?
What's his what's his life experiences?
Well, I'm saying in reference, did you see all the controversy you've just been in?
No.
He was basically advocating Jews are bad people and black people are superior to Jews. He's in a bunch of
that's
shit
fucking
right now.
stupid.
But I'm saying, I agree. But I'm saying you can't say this is the king black person who we have to listen to absolutely on all his views because he speaks for all black
Right.
people.
So-
in the same way we can't do that for any other race. So that's what makes it so difficult and challenging moving forward. And like, man, something that's been weighing heavy on me lately is just like I've seen all this like petitioning and like support from the black community for all black classes. And
We have all black colleges.
yeah, which is it should be a testament to how badly we're still doing. Because at first I was upset because I'm like, okay, well, what the fuck? We just did all this work over the past 50, 60 years to integrate and to mix us all together and to get past that barrier. And now you're setting us back by having an all black college. And then I realized my hypocrisy of saying, wait, it's not them. It's us. We're forcing them to still have that all black college.
And they take pride in those all black colleges because now they can turn around and look at these white people and say, fuck y'all.
Yeah.
We're doing this on our own. You see
But
what I'm saying?
again, creates division. But it's like, is division an all bad thing at this point? Should there be a little division? Because clearly,
in certain categories, yes, but race is not one of those things.
No, but it almost seems like in education, in particular, like with all black colleges, I would love to see like statistics on graduation percentages and success percentages.
I'll tell you, we went to K-State for some training. K-State is predominantly black, correct?
HBC, I think. Yeah.
Is it?
I would think so. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a predominantly black college.
And what I experience up there is that the students up there, it's a different kind of community. You see what I'm saying? And it like they have more involvement with like sororities and fraternities and stuff like that. And then the climate's just different. You know what I'm saying? Because if you have somewhere like that, and your community has been oppressed for so long, and then you're in a community where your people, you've been told your whole life that black people don't succeed, right?
Yeah.
Your people don't succeed, whatever. Then you're with a group of people who are, your people, and you are succeeding together. You see what I'm saying? That all that is about empowerment.
Right.
You know what I mean? And in my opinion, let them have the black colleges. Yeah. Let them be empowered. Yeah. Let the next president be black, 100% black. Cool. I want the black community to do whatever they can to stick it to the white guy.
Yeah.
Because George Floyd, whatever. If they succeed, that's sticking to the white guy. You see what I'm saying? Okay. Mixed martial arts. Basically, a white guy invented mixed martial arts, him and Portuguese, the Gracies. The greatest mixed martial art fighter ever is black, right? The greatest basketball player is black. White people invented it. The greatest golfer right now is black. Okay? I can go on and on.
I would much rather look at it as stick it to history and stick it to the roots of the foundation of why it's like that, rather than saying stick to the white guy.
What I'm saying is
just because of the divisive thing.
Well, I mean, whatever, but it's kind of a joke, kind of not, right?
Yeah, I get
but what my point is, everything that the white man has put the black community throughout history, they have evolved and overcame and made it their own.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Because, okay, we have the stereotype that black people can fight, right? MMA was invented. Oh, shit. The white dude just put out a blueprint for me to be a better fighter. Fuck yeah, let me use that to advantage, and I will make millions of dollars. I will change the whole sport of MMA. That's what John Jones did.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Floyd.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's tough, man. All these conversations are tough because...
And there's no right answer.
And the problem is, look, we're talking between ourselves as individuals who respect people at the level that they respect us. If I walked out into the street and I was just like, get the fuck out of my way to you, you'd be like, ooh, if that dude puts his hands on me, I don't give a fuck about
Go to New York City.
Exactly.
That's it.
But, we all respect each other. We've all been humbled in one way or another. So we understand that there is respect that you give to people, and there's respect that you don't just give to people, okay? If you respect everybody, that devalues respect, right? Because if it's just like every person you walk up the street, I respect you, sir, people will, guess what they'll do? They'll take advantage of you.
Absolutely.
But what you can do is treat that person as if they are your equal, okay? And you can treat that person the same way that you can treat anybody else without looking at their physical appearance or if they're handicapped or anything else. They are your equal. That is what this country was founded on, and that is unfortunately not always been the case in the past, but we do know now, once again, the Declaration will stay on my wall because that is where it's not said in the Constitution, as some people think it is, but it is not said in the Constitution that all men are created equal and that what we all want is the pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, okay? And we all want that as individuals, as human beings. No color involved, no culture involved, no religion involved. That's what we want. We want to be treated equal, because when you stop treating people equally, if every time Jacob talked, I was like, shh. If I just did that every time, he would be like, fuck this podcast, fuck you, I don't want to be on this, because I'm not treating him as he's an equal to me. That's one of the reasons why these things can work, is because if you treat another person as your equal, you don't necessarily respect them until they have given you that respect. Me and Jacob respect each other because we have shown each other respect, but me and Jacob wouldn't even be friends if, the first time we interacted, he was just like, fuck you, sure, I don't give a fuck about you. We would never be friends, right?
First of all, we're friends because I showed you my gun in the parking lot at work.
Allegedly. But...
No, I definitely did.
all things being said, that's what human beings care about. Are you going to respect me as an individual, that I am autonomous and that I have my own sovereignty? And if you do, first of all, you'd be like, oh, well, you're respecting me. I will talk to you as if I respect you now. But if you go up to somebody without that respect and you don't believe that they have their own rights to being a sovereign citizen with, the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness, then you'll treat them as such. And unfortunately, our country hasn't always been like that. But from now on out, we have the ability, the capability, the communication, the respect, the scope to do that. And everybody wants to do that. There's fringe groups in every group, right? And we can't cater to them no matter what. That's a really big issue.
Okay,
We
I'll
cannot
put you on speaker in the mic.
No.
We have a caller. I believe it's your girlfriend.
Hey, what's up?
Hey!
She's a
Yeah.
POC. Black girl.
I just wanted to like chime in because just like listening to you guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Just listening to you guys, like, it's so interesting because the three of you are all white males, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But for me, I am white, I'm black, and my dad, who is the black parent, is former law enforcement. So I'm kind of in this position where I get to hear every point of what you guys are talking about. I'm black, white, and then I have law enforcement in my family. And like one of the things that you were talking about that kind of got my brain going was the part about all black colleges. And so something that you guys were saying is like, wow, this is kind of like setting us back because we've been working on integration this whole
I didn't
time.
say that. Jacob said it.
Well, that was my first reaction to it. I was like, what the fuck is that? I mean, we're gonna have separate water fountains again? Like, how far are we willing to take this?
Right.
And like I said, then I realized like, oh, it's not them. It's our reaction to them being in our schools that is causing them to open their own schools. Like, all right, well, fuck y'all. We're just gonna go do our own thing and be successful on our own.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, when I was a sophomore at U of L, we had a program that was called, I don't remember what it called, but it was like where a person of color that's an upperclassman will like take care of like a freshman student that's a person of color. But part of the reason that we did that was because of retention. And I had to go through a course that was called the Black Experience. I had to learn about all the stuff that you guys are talking about, historically black colleges and things like that. And I don't know, I just feel like it's not necessarily, I don't think that it's seen by the black community as, all right, this is our time to shine and like screw you guys because you made us be to this point. But it actually turns into this thing of like pride, like taking pride in who you are. Because you have to realize like none of our roots are based here. They're all based in another country. And so it's like we have to make a name for ourselves where we are right now. And it just kind of is one of those things where, like, I don't think it's really causing an issue, but I think it actually is, in turn, pushing us back towards equality because these standards have been set of, all right, typically black people are lower income. They have bigger issues getting into college and stuff like that. But when you separate people that, like, when they go to, like, a historically black college, it gives them an environment for them to, like, now we can fully focus on you and focus on what can we do to make sure that you stick with attention, and then we can now be brought back up to that equal level. So really, it's not seen as creating more separation, but it's kind of putting us back into a fair playing field.
So I agree with you. Just playing almost devil's advocate and just proposing a question to you more than anything else. But let me ask, as someone who has went through that, do you feel that the environment of not only having a black mentor, but even going as far as attending an all-black college or something to that degree, do you feel like that might just create an echo chamber that may even breed the diversity, or not diversity, but the division we're talking about, where I wholeheartedly believe that the only way you can defeat bad ideas is with good ideas. And whether it's talking about, these all liberal colleges where people with different ideas are being kicked off campus, I have no idea if it's like that with black colleges, where if you were to propose anything to the contrary of what they're teaching you about the country or what they're teaching you about anything for that matter, do you find that it's almost like a feedback loop or an echo chamber where new ideas can't get in? Or if they are allowed in, if it's met with extreme hostility instead of, taking a learning approach to it?
Well, I think there's kind of 2 points to that. So you kind of made the comparison to super liberal colleges. Well, one is something that you decide to go with, and the other is something you can't change about yourself, right? So that's one point, is that, you don't choose to be black.
Right.
You do choose your political views. So there's that piece of it. But then also, like...
Is that your girlfriend?
I think...
First of all, we have to have her on the podcast.
She's way out of your league. I know. She is way smarter than you. My bad. My bad.
Sorry, Francis. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And then the other part of it is, like, it's kind of like comparing Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. Because Martin Luther King Jr., he stood for, obviously he did have some shady stuff that he did, but for the most part, he was for peacefulness and for causing equality, whereas Malcolm X was more towards the anti-white side of things. And so when you have a HBC, it's kind of more along the lines of equality. How can we be equal? How can we get back to that playing field? How can we focus on retention? Whereas I think sometimes people might see it as this more of a Malcolm X thing. It's like, screw the white people, we don't care, we want our own space. But really, I have been around black communities where they are like that. They're like, I don't like white people, I don't trust white people. But for the most part, it is seen as a positive thing of how can we just get back to being even equal, because we are under equality at this point so far. It might not be as obvious as black and white water fountains, but we do have to deal with that still today, and it's still ingrained in people around us. So it's like, well, what do? We're going to separate ourselves in order to be focused on so that, because I've seen this, I don't know if you've ever seen where people will line up and they say, all right, I'm going to say a bunch of random things, and if they apply to you, take a step forward. So if you've never had divorced parents, take
white
a step
privilege,
forward.
right?
If you've never had whatever. And so then you look, and it's like all these people were in the back row. So how can we help the people in the back row? Well, we don't need to focus on anybody that took step forward, so we need to focus on the people in the back.
To go back to what we talked about just a minute ago, I probably got a little off in the weeds with the question I was asking. I wasn't trying to compare being black with being a liberal. My question was focused on, does having an all-black environment create a feedback loop which new ideas can't enter into?
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that part. Well, I guess that kind of was tying into the Malcolm X comparison, where I don't think it creates a feedback loop if it's done the right way. Obviously, there can be people who present it and say, you know what, no, don't bring any other idea in here. Don't bring the idea that cops can be good. And so that's kind of just, a bite to the system of whatever you have that HBCN or whoever is teaching the course, however that professor chooses to present things. And then from there, it's just who decides to follow that and listen to it.
I gotcha. That definitely answers it. Yeah, I felt like once you said that, I was like, whoa, I wasn't trying to compare.
Do you know what's going on here? What I proposed just a minute ago, having Marshall Sanders, somebody in here, what I proposed just a minute ago, when I wanted to have somebody black in here to give their perspective, this is what's going on now.
Yeah.
And you shut me down over that.
No. I wasn't shutting you down over it. I was saying that. So what Francis is saying, and what Zach, who is also a mixed person with a black father, wasn't an LEO, but same, at least colored parents. What these two individuals would be saying is total opposite.
Right. So what I'm talking about, I keep on using Marshall as an example because, does she know Marshall Sanders? Marshall is about 6'7", 325 pounds. He used to play basketball at KWC. Menacing figure. One of the nicest guys you ever meet, big teddy bear, right? And we're really good friends, and, he's asked me to support him coming out to the statue thing, whatever, and I will, excuse me. But that's what I'm saying. I would like to hear somebody like him, his perspective, because he's so logical, right? And in my structure, or my little world here, I have to help who's right next to me, right? If I can't help them, I can't help anybody else. See what I'm saying? So that's why I'm so focused on people like Marshall who are close to me. What can I do to help you? You know what I'm saying? So that's why that's why I made the recommendation of, if we talked about this, let's get somebody else's perspective. And thank you, Francis, for calling in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Francis.
You're welcome to stay on if you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fuck, I was going to say something. I forgot. Chase, you got anything to add to this?
I wanted to circle back to a couple of things that you guys said about the concentration camps and the statues. there's a big difference here in those that we didn't call out. Those concentration camps are not on the courthouse lawn.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's a big
Yeah.
difference. Okay. Because if you had Auschwitz right in front of the courthouse, you'd be like,
Kind of
Probably
Can
not
we
the
mo-
best spot for
can
it.
we move Can we move the courthouse first of all?
Yeah.
Like move it away from there because we want to move that ideology away from that
Yeah.
ideology, right? First and foremost. So I wanted to address that, but I absolutely get what she's saying. Where HBCs have been a place for minorities to go to be empowered about, hey, look, there are people that are like-minded like you from the same cultures you are from that are trying to succeed. Come here, we will help you succeed. And those people do succeed because you see so many minorities in different colleges where they're minorities in those colleges drop out, fail, and quit because they weren't empowered in the kind of ways that maybe their culture normally empowered them in. So it becomes a very difficult question as far as like, I'm really glad she brought up the difference between Malcolm X and MLK because, those are very polar opposites. But what we've seen from HBCs is an incredibly high success rate in the black community from those colleges. And we've seen a lower percentage of success in the black communities in other colleges that are predominantly white or predominantly other races. And that may not necessarily be because of the race. It may be because of the culture, maybe because it's too liberal, too conservative. Who knows? I haven't done the analysis, so I don't want to make that decision. But we absolutely have to move towards a society that doesn't need places where you have to go here to be empowered. Okay, other than a wide branching like a college. Okay, in practicality, universities should be the place where you can go to have all the resources to expand your academic knowledge, combat ideas, and become a potent individual who can articulate what you mean and manifest that in the world.
I got a question for Francis real quick before I forget.
Yeah, you're good.
So, Francis, we have this, it's kind of like a quote in jiu-jitsu, people who struggle together, they're closer. You see what I'm saying? So do you think that the success from the all-black colleges, the HBCs, comes from the community because they all come from a place of struggle? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understood all of it until the very last part of like we all come from it. Can you kind of clarify?
Well,
what you
like okay, say okay, if they all come from a place of struggle, they had a struggle to get to where they're at because we know. You're at a all black college for a reason. You're there because you're successful, and you're there because of community, right? You know what I'm saying? The people who had to dig themselves up out of the dirt because of where they were born at, the product of their environment, when they meet people like them, does that make success more viable because they can work together? Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, I think it does because, you're in the social work field, so you know that too. People have been abused or anything like that or deal with suicidal things. Like you want to band with other people who can help you through what you're going through because they understand it. So I think, yeah, I definitely think it does help having other people who understand that struggle to be able to be there with you and to know how to work through it together. But I think it's also just as helpful to see someone who is successful, who has never had to struggle, be there to also help you and say, well, what can I do and how can I take from what you've learned in your experience also?
That too, and what about like the professors? Because obviously, if they're a college professor, they're successful, so they can add that point of view and that perspective to these college students, correct? And versus saying, "Oh, that's just my professor; he's just teaching class." He actually has experience, which creates understanding, and he actually have a relationship with these students, which in turn creates more success, right?
Right, for sure. And I think that really helps too to have a teacher who's there that can help you because, I mean, think about it for a second, or like especially, if you went to, like Chase, you went to OHS, right? We had a predominantly black school system. Well, look back at that and
It's 1/3.
like look at other people who are around you. When was the first time you had a black teacher? Like that's not common. And so it's hard to be able to be in a position where it's like I'm being taught by somebody who literally does not know what I'm going through, who can't know what I'm going through. But then if you step into a historically black college, it's like you've been there. You know what I went through. You know what it feels like to have my skin color and walk into a store every day. And it doesn't matter if you're white and you have a degree in Pan-African studies or whatever, that's great. You can know about it all day long, but you will never know what it feels like to stand in my shoes and feel what I feel and know what I went through. So I think it's just so important to be able to have that space like a historically black college to where we can be focused on and our needs are met by people who understand what we need because they needed it themselves.
So obviously all three of us sitting here are supporting, supportive of the movement and supportive of all things equal. To play devil's advocate here, and
That just means he's gonna say some racist shit. I'm sure.
For someone who would be listening to this podcast and thinking to themselves, because I've seen this fucking spewed online from a lot of people in our community, and it's troublesome. And I don't know how to rebut it, so I'd like your opinion on this. For someone who sits back and chooses to see things from the perspective of, well, they have BET, they have all black colleges, they have Black Lives Matter. What about us? What about white men? How come we can't have white entertainment television and all white colleges? Why is that not okay?
So I think I personally struggle to find where I stand on this issue, just because, like, I think, to be honest, it kind of just is straight people being petty.
They can't handle the spotlight not being on them for a change.
Right, and it's also like being a victim when you're not a victim, because it's like, okay, same. The analogy you made with the house is like, if my house is on fire, I'm going to spray my house. It doesn't mean your house doesn't matter, but why would I spray your house if it's not on fire? And so it's just kind of like, well, why can't we have this, station that also cares about our culture? And it's like, well, like, how often in history has your culture been treated like crap, So I think but it's on the other side, it also is like, well, maybe people just want to take pride in who they are and just be, so I struggle with that. I really do. Because it's like you say black pride or like black power, and that's positive. You say white pride or white power, that's bad. And so, obviously white power has like a negative connotation with it, but still it's almost like you don't have a right to be proud of being white. So then it's like, and then me, here I am being both, and it's like, how the hell am I supposed to feel right now? And it does. It really gets confusing, and I just don't know how to give you a straight answer on that.
I gotcha. I do appreciate your perspective on it. And I've got one other question for you. So as you know, my best friend Zach is a mixed guy. We just talked about that a minute ago. And every time we get on the topic of any kind of race-related conversation, he always says that he feels so trapped in the middle because white people still look at him as a black guy. They don't want him dating their white daughters. They don't want him, they associate all negative black stereotypes with him. So he tries to retreat to the black community, and the black community looks at him as a white guy. Like, oh, you're not a black dude. You don't talk like us. You don't wear the same clothes as us. You like all this, country boy, quote unquote shit. We don't want anything to do with you either. Have you experienced anything like that, just from your perspective in life? And if so, do you have any maybe tips or any suggestions for people experiencing what Zach is going through, how to kind of maybe overcome that, or how to move forward maybe with a new perspective?
Yeah, so 100% I've experienced that. I actually posted on Facebook my in-depth thoughts about what it feels like to be biracial. So if anybody wants to look for that, search my name, Frances Eaton, just scroll down and you'll see a really long post about it. But I do feel stuck in the middle. And for Zach and I, we have the same problem on different sides. He's black passing, but he also has white, and I'm white passing, but I also have black. And so I get that. It's very hard.
What does that mean?
Oh,
Can you
what does that
clarify?
mean?
Yeah.
So black passing and white passing. So it's like if you were to look at me, just to glance and like, what would you say I look like? Most people would say, well, she's white. She looks white. She can pass as just white. Zach can't do that because his skin is darker and he has more physical features that, don't exactly make him look like he's white. And so he is more black passing.
Okay.
I see.
Yeah. And so kind of with being stuck in the middle and like how to go about it, it's hard because I experienced something called code switching. So basically when I'm around white people or sometimes like just people back in Owensboro versus Louisville, but when I'm around white people, I behave and I speak in a different way. I don't intend to do that. I'm not being fake. I'm not two-sided, but my mind naturally shifts over to this is how you behave with white people. Then I get around black people and like my black family and everything switches over and, my dialect and everything switches and I talk differently and I behave differently and my mannerisms differently. And I'm not doing it intentionally. The code switching is like a legitimate thing. And so I think for people who are experiencing this, it's important to just like recognize that you have absolutely every right to be part of both of those communities because I am white. My mom is white. I get to feel that. My dad is black. It doesn't matter what my skin looks like. My biological father is Daddy. I'm sorry if you're watching this, but he is dark as the night sky. And he is black and he's my father. So I get to say, yes, I am black. And like be proud of that. So that would be just a tip for people who are experiencing it is that you have every right to be part of either one, despite what people treat you like that's trash. If you are black, I am black. I shouldn't be treated negatively by black people just because I don't look that way. Now, for people that are friends with people like us, sometimes it's hard to be like shamed about it. Like, yeah, it's goofy. Like I make jokes about being biracial and like my black side and all of that. But sometimes you have to be very careful with that. Like there's kind of a gray line at times because yeah, we can joke about it all day long. Be like, yeah, I'm, black, whatever. But then like you kind of sit down and you think about it and you're like, dang, like that kind of, the more you speak it, like the more it feels like truth. And so I would say just be kind of gentle with people who are biracial, specifically black and white, and be just ready to maybe change the way you act around them if like that's a joke, like if it's a big joking thing that you guys do often. Obviously sometimes we just don't care and it's not a big deal, but just be open. And then also listen to them, just straight up listen. And that is not just biracial people but black people in general. I mean, the only way you're going to help or fix anything is just to freaking listen to us. And if we ask for something that we need, like, help provide that for us. And really that's all you can do is just be an ally and be someone who's like, yeah, I'm going to stand up for this. And then obviously educate yourself. And yeah, I think it'd be great if you guys got more people of color on the show to like talk about these types of things, because the only way you're going to be able to spread awareness and help people understand is by having somebody who's walked in those shoes help you through it.
Hey, Francis, talk about the code switching. I experienced that at work too.
Everyone experiences.
Yeah, well, I do it on purpose though. Because,
you do? Okay.
Because I do it on purpose because my theory about code switching is that you're getting on somebody's level to be able to communicate to them.
You're being more relatable.
Correct. Now, like if I talk to a 15-year-old kid who has mental health issues, am I going to talk professional, use all these big words and stuff? Absolutely not. I'm going to get down on his level, talk to him, ask him if he understands what I'm saying, whatever, and explain everything to him, right? It's just like black people with Ebonics, all right? They created their own language. I don't understand it. You know what I'm saying? But that's their way of talking. Now, I can't understand that, and, one of my best friends, Boomer Fountain, he understands that I can't understand it, and he's not going to talk to me in Ebonics. And if he does, I'm like, hey, man, what does that mean? And he'll explain it to me. You see what I'm saying? So I think it's out of respect, to be honest, for somebody to code switch to be able to be more relatable, to be able to communicate. I don't think it's being fake at all.
No, it's not being fake. I think what she's referring to in particular is the subconscious side of
Right.
things, and I've experienced that not only just with like race, but like I got a good buddy Josie that lives in Louisville, white as a fucking winter morning, and he talks super like slang, like just going. I've never heard of half the phrases he fucking uses, and you give me an hour around that dude, and I'll be saying yo every other fucking word. So it is weird how like your brain just automatically switches.
Hey, even on the Josh Merritt podcast, when you started talking about like your past and your family and everything like that, a twang came out of you that I'd never heard before.
Well, Brooklyn says the same thing happens
Yes.
when I'm around my dad.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
started
yeah. When
speaking
you
more,
started
like,
talking about
country.
your family, you switched to a tone that was way more country than I've heard from you before. And I was just like, I don't think you noticed it, which was kind of cool because, like, he sang a couple songs, you're like, man, that made me think of my family. And then I heard this twang come out of you, and I was just like, okay. So it's not something that may necessarily be race related, but it's necessarily be person to person related.
Yeah, it's
I want to
very
communicate
personal.
with you, so I'm going to talk I'm going to talk to you in a way that you understand, okay? Because I respect you and I want you to understand me, and I want us to have a conversation. So I think that can be something that definitely transcends race and culture for sure. But I've seen it on a couple different occasions for sure. So.
One thing I've been far more mindful of, and I used to just pass it off as, oh, well, it's just description. But like when I'm telling a story to somebody, I've been far more mindful of like saying, well, all right, so I pulled in the gas station and there was 3 black dudes over to my left, and like, you know, and like that description had no actual place in the story other than just, and like I thought about it one day because it was actually Zach who was like, what did that have to do with anything? And I was like, well, it's just a description, and like we just, you know, like it just, we glaze it over and continue on with the story. And after I was done, I was like thinking to myself, I was like, why do I say that? Like, yes, it's a description, but I don't give a description if it's a Mexican dude or an Asian dude. So I must be giving the black description because it has a negative connotation to let you, the listener, know that I felt some kind of way, whether it was I'm in danger or that I had an eye on them because of their skin color. I'm letting you know something by telling you that they're black other than just their skin color, because it doesn't have any relevant details to the story. I could say 3 guys and the story would remain absolutely the same. And so I've been I caught myself doing it the other day. Our in-shop guy, he's a mixed dude, and I was telling him a story that the customer I was dealing with was a black dude. And I almost said, yeah, I was working on this black dude's car the other day, and I was like, I caught myself and I was like, why were you about to say that? It's a weird thing, and a lot of fucking people do it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's like, you're not trying to be negative. You're just like, it's just the way, I don't know, it's just the way it is, frankly. And I think the most that we could do is, like Francis said, be an ally, but also look in the mirror. and whatever you can change is what you should change, because that's what you have direct power over, is the way you communicate, the way that you portray yourself, and the thoughts that you put out in the world. Like I said earlier, I mean, the only way to beat bad ideas is with good ideas. So the more conversations like this we can have, whether it's with a black person in the room or whether it's just 3 white guys talking about what we can relate to and things, you know, I'm sure Francis heard things during this podcast that she was like, nah, y'all are way off base. And that's okay. It's okay to be off base, because as long as we're talking and discussing it, we're getting somewhere.
We can get to the
I'm
base.
just throwing shit out. If I'm wrong, let me know, because I can.
No,
That's
and
why we do.
would.
That's why we've been doing this
That's
podcast for years.
Literally why we started the podcast.
Yeah, shit. I'm just talking, you know. And if I need my perspective changed, let me know.
It means a lot to me that Francis, that you called in, and I know from a past episode where we had a black dude on to talk about the first time all this Confederate stuff was going on. Me and Chase caught a lot of shit over, well, you're just having the black guy on to talk about a black issue. Yep. And it's like, well, I wanted to have him on because he's my buddy, but he wound up coming on at a time where that was in the news cycle, so yes, it did get brought up, but then you can't just pass something off as coincidence, because nobody believes that. They're like, no, you had a black guy on because it's a black issue. It's like, well, what's so wrong with having a black guy on for a black issue, though? And so that's what you were saying earlier, how you were like, well, we should have a black person in this room who can speak on this. And that's why I kind of gave you some shit. And I was like, I agree with you.
Right.
But just understand that there is not one perspective from any one black person that will sum up all of a black point of view.
And that goes back to my reasoning is that I'm trying to help out my people that I can help out directly, right? So if my perspective is not what is in line with his, I'm like, okay, I need to get in line with you. You see what I'm saying? Because I devoted myself to help Marshall and whoever else. You know what I mean? That was just my thing. But go ahead.
I did want to make one last point, going back to the code switching thing that I thought about, because you guys said, how can we help or whatever. And you guys were saying, code switching is it can be a respect thing or whatever, but also recognize that code switching, especially the subconscious piece of it, is so exhausting and it feels very damaging, because actually for me, code switching is not necessarily like, oh, I'm going to do this, because I get you're talking about code switching like professional or unprofessional, like that type of thing. But for me, you have to realize it's more like hiding parts of me. Because, for example, one of the guys that I dated who was white, he told me, and this speaks to the trash guys that I've dated, but he told me, anytime you're around my grandparents, you need to have your hair up in a pony, like in a bun. Because they can't know you're black, and I laughed at first, and they were like, no, seriously, and it got to the point where I was like, we've been pretty serious, and I was like, I don't think you need to hide this from your grandparents. Like, I'm not trying to come around your family if you're gonna tell me I can't be black and I can't talk a certain way and I can't sound ghetto or whatever. And so just be mindful of that if you do have a black friend, especially if they're biracial, and you notice them acting differently around your white friends, maybe pull them aside and be like, dude, do you feel comfortable? Because they might be doing that because they feel like they have to hide a piece of them.
Makes sense. And the moral of my whole argument, statement, whatever, with everything, is that if we all communicate and we all talk and have conversations, a lot of this will be alleviated. Yeah. The movie Higher Learning? Yeah. You ever seen that movie?
No, I haven't.
It's about a college and neo-Nazis, they have this big race war. And at the very end, it said in letters on the screen, unlearn. You see what I'm saying? Because talk about DNA. Some of this is ingrained in people's DNA because that's what generations of stuff have gone through, right? So it's up to us to break that cycle. You know what I mean? Yep. To make the people unlearn this shit. And I mean, you've had there's that guy on Joe Rogan's podcast who has turned over so many KKK members.
Oh yeah.
Because he's had conversations with them. They set them down, had conversations like, your ideology is just stupid. You know what I'm saying? I understand, loyalty, whatever, but you cannot discriminate against anybody because all that does is create division. It's evil.
Daryl Davis,
yeah.
Great guy.
And so if we're able to have that line of communication, that open line to where it's safe and nobody feels threatened, just like this platform, I feel like that we could do some work here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's been a great podcast, you guys. I'm glad that we've got that.
Definitely getting late. You're about to fall asleep, Jerry.
No, it's good, man. This has been one of the more balanced podcasts that we had in a long time. This is one of the reasons why I love talking to you, Scott. I mean, you are a very practical human being, and you haven't had anything just fucking handed to you. So, obviously,
I'm fucking white. What do you think?
I mean, like I said, there's things you've had to do, but obviously you've worked very, very hard for what you've accomplished.
Yes.
And I appreciate that about you. And you're always extremely honest no matter what. And I knew this was going to be a good podcast. And Francis, I love you so much. And I thank you for calling in and giving your perspective.
Of all, I love you more, Chase.
I don't know. That's debatable, but you'll have to take it up.
Boyfriends. I've never had another boyfriend.
Ooh.
You guys hang up first. You hang up.
Thanks for calling in, Francis. Definitely call in more often. You were great.
Yeah, for sure. Bye, guys.
Bye.
See ya.
But yeah, like I said, it's been a really good podcast, and it's a good opportunity for us to sit here and talk about good issues that are going on in today's society. And like you said, you know, there's perspectives that I want to have in here too, that like, you know, some people won't give us, you know, and unfortunately, and, you know, me and Jacob have been berated online for stupid shit where it's just like, you know, we were never intending that, but you pulled that away from a snippet of our conversation. And this is a free-flowing conversation that may not get back to that point.
Right.
You know, and we want to address everything as equally as possible. And, you know, like, we're not perfect. We don't pretend to be perfect. This is Take Cover, because sometimes you need to just take fucking cover and get the fuck out of here and not fucking listen to what we're saying because we may be a little fucking wild. But at the same time, I nonetheless always appreciate every perspective that's brought in here because I know that I've been awarded privileges in my life that other people don't have, whether it be, you know, financially related or skin related or whatever it may be. I don't ever want to like sit and talk to somebody and have a conversation with them where they feel like they have to switch to this conversation, that they have to act a certain way,
or put their hair up. That's fucking wild.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to belittle that situation, but I can relate in a way because I went to my great grandmother's house with my grandmother, and she specifically told my great grandmother that Lacey divorced me and not the other way around. And then when we left, she was like, she wouldn't understand.
Generational things.
You don't get a divorce.
Yeah.
And she's like, I understand why you didn't, you know, and that's my grandmother to her mom. So it's like, man, these kind of...
Your great-grandmother's still alive?
Yeah, both of them.
Dope as fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, go back to what you were saying, Chase. You were really on to something. I just wanted to chime in there. Like, it's the generational mindset it's phasing out, but it seems to be ever so prevalent. I don't know what it is about people getting older that they... as people age, they tend to become more conservative. But aside from being more conservative, I don't know if it's just life experience or what, but people become bitter towards the end. And typically your lawmakers, your legislative bodies, your presidents, they're old, man.
So tonight, I had this conversation with a guy whenever my dad was in the hospital in 2017. That's when all the Charlottesville shit was going on.
Yeah.
And this guy ended up being a doctor, and I went to this restaurant downtown Louisville, and we got to talking, and he said, "Can you believe this shit?" He said, "I worked so hard to create a good life for my children and my grandchildren, and when I die, I'm leaving them this fucking shit." He said, "This is crazy." You know what I mean? So I could see why the older generation is bitter, because what did Tim Kennedy say? Hard men create soft time, whatever.
Yeah.
Hard times create hard men. Hard men create soft times. Soft times create soft men. Soft men create hard times.
Yeah.
That's what we're going through. World War II, the baby boomer generation, that was hard times, hard men. And then now we're the softest fucking people in the
softest time.
This
Holy
is,
shit.
you know, on this podcast, we've had people talk about a variety of scenarios that they've been involved in, life experiences. One thing we've always gone back to is that, you know, make sure that you know exactly, you know, where you come from, where you stand and everything, you know, because at the end of the day, you know, we're human beings and we have tendencies. We tend to act a certain way. We tend to treat people a certain way. We have circuits in our brain that react certain ways. And when we let those circuits control us over our culture, control us over our respect and how we treat individuals, then bad things start to happen. We lean one way too far, atrocities happen. We lean the other way too far, atrocities happen. And I will spit this ad nauseum. If you're not well read on the 20th century, we saw the most grotesque things that the human experience can create. We saw it. We saw it. No time before that can you say was worse. No time can you say where human beings to the extreme were grosser, more distant, more disgusting towards other individuals than in the 20th century. And so now we're in a progress where we need to rebound from that, understand history, but don't get stuck in it. Understand it, but we also have to move forward. And that's something that I'll always push forward on this podcast, and then I always want anybody that I know to understand about me that if I get into a disagreement with them, that at the end of the day, what matters to me is your rights as a human individual, that you are created as equal to me. I don't care if you're taller than me, blacker than me, fatter than me, tall. It doesn't matter. Those things don't matter to me.
I'm blacker than you.
You are. Everybody is.
I'm clear.
There's contests that can happen here. But at the end of the day, we all deserve the same opportunity to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So, with that being said, this is Take Cover Podcast.
Absolutely. If I can end it on one note, guys, to quote the great Joe Rogan, you are not your ideas. Ideas are ever changing. Don't be married to them.
And
Keep your
opinions
mind
are
open.
your lowest form of knowledge, correct?
Absolutely.
That's right.
Keep your mind open, guys.
That's right. We love you guys. We will
See
be
you
back
next
next Wednesday. Scott, thank you for coming in.
There'll be a music podcast too, boys, next
That's
Wednesday.
right. We have some music for y'all. So
Absolutely.
check out Teespring if y'all want some gear. And then we will see y'all later.